stacked to 85%. No racial perks, but I wasn't complaining. I could basically sleep in a blizzard. Character creation, Nordic base, elven ears, purple eyes, obviously. If I can pick purple, I do. But something felt off. I remember my loadouts, my stats, my beard preference. I just didn't remember arriving here. Still, I sculpted a sharper jawline, tossed in a full but not too wild beard, like I was cracked open. Stars above, Nirn below. I wasn't falling, just floating, surrounded by strangers in a cosmic circle like some weird interdimensional group therapy. Then bam! A guy in a tacky red-purple suit pops in, grinning like a merchant with too many potions to sell. "Welcome to the beta testing of Elder Scrolls 8, he boomed, like this was a party instead of a trap. He blabbed on about time limits, location locks, blah blah standard dev jargon wrapped in chaos. My mouth stayed shut, but inside, panic and curiosity threw hands. No HUD, no logout. Just the chilling realization, this wasn't a game anymore, not really. The moment he paused mid-sentence, you knew it was coming. For you loremongers, we do have a new crisis, he said, practically vibrating with smugness. But don't get too excited. You're shackled to a single time period. One continent, one chance. You can leave it, but don't. You will get lost. And yeah, you will get lost. So what's the setting? He barely let the question breathe before answering himself, Skyrim. Not the Skyrim you knew, though. This is a twisted version, remodeled, updated, and crawling with surprises. Your old meta? Useless. Your favorite exploits? Maybe extinct. Then bam! A screen hits you in the face. This is your journal, the voice chimes. Map, quests, profile all in one glowing interface. Welcome to the beta. Welcome to chaos. No saves, no second chances. If you want to level up, you sleep, simple as that. Then, boom, character creation lights up like a divine menu from the gods. The announcer snaps his fingers, poof, he's gone, and I'm left staring at the skill tree roulette. 3 picks, bonus XP and whatever I choose. The rest, learn it the hard way. Classic. Most skills scream Skyrim nostalgia, but 4 shiny new trees steal the show. Acrobatics, hand-to-hand, empowerment, and blessings. Acrobatics? Think flashy knife throws and rogue flips. Hand-to-hand? Punch first. Ask later. But empowerment and blessings? Total mystery boxes. I scratch my head, heart racing, brain calculating. One thing's for sure, stealth is a must. When you can't fight or steal, you sneak. And when you can sneak, you win. First thing I did, stealth. Always stealth, like breathing in shadow form. No second guesses there. But then came the real question, what next? I wanted something that'd carry weight across every conversation, every shop, every lie. Speechcraft, underrated? Absolutely. But if things played out how I imagined, persuasion wouldn't just be a skill, it'd be a weapon. Prices drop, people fold, and if the Thuum came into play, maybe I'd shout mountains into dust. Still, something gnawed at me felt like speech could go deeper, twistier than anyone expected. But the third slot, that one kept me pacing. This wasn't vanilla Skyrim. We were stuck in a beta simulation dressed in nostalgia, which meant I needed more than muscle or mimicry. I needed magic. Physical combat? Learnable. But real spell work? That required raw talent. So I narrowed it. Restoration or alteration. Conjuration had too many death. By Daedra risks. Destruction was too loud, and illusion? A joke. Restoration had obvious utility, but alteration? Quietly powerful. Like me, might be the dark horse this world never saw coming? Alteration wasn't just spellsit, it was a cheat code. It amped everything. Alchemy, speechcraft, enchanting. Transmute alone turned iron into gold and words into power. I was sold. Alteration it was. And if I ever wanted to crack the language of dragons, I'd need every edge. The announcer's voice boomed, jarring me from my scheming. Finally, now bonuses for those with unique picks. 2 trees glowed. Speechcraft and alteration. My reward? Any bonus, so long as it fit. Easy. For alteration, 3 custom spells. First, divergence, to split any spell into a new one. Second, fusion, to merge spells into something stronger. And last, conversion, to flip spells between active and passive. My arsenal was no longer spells. It was evolution. Heh. Speechcraft was the tough one. Without the Dragonborn soul perks, I had to improvise as so. I chose a book. Not just any book, but one that taught the dragon tongue and every shout in it. Clever, right? The announcer's voice sliced in before I could pat myself on the back. Decided? Good. Time for your race. Look in the mirror. Bamir pops up. I'm a stock Nord, like everyone else. Some folks flipped genders. I didn't. Too many unknowns. Instead, I eyed the race menu. I could pick one or mix 2. Half-breeds were on the table, snow elf, akaviri, even beastfolk combos, but only with other furballs. Some choices were basically suicide unless you nailed your spawn point. Reekling or Falmer? Maybe, but the smart move, pick the race after choosing where you drop in. Starting point was everything. They gave us a choice erase before zone. Smart move, honestly. I went with a Nord Snow Elf hybrid, cold resistance stacked to 85%. No racial perks, but I wasn't complaining. I could basically sleep in a blizzard. Character creation, Nordic base, elven ears, purple eyes, obviously. If I can pick purple, I do. But something felt off. I remembered my loadouts, my stats, my beard preference. I just didn't remember arriving here. Still, I sculpted a sharper jawline, tossed in a full but not too wild beard, like I was trying to remember a face I never had. Charisma slider? Gently nudged, just enough to make it count. My hair? Black, like obsidian midnight, not that pale, predictable Nord fluff. I gave myself a glorious mane, thick enough to armor both head and neck. Then came the body. Muscular? Absolutely. Not bulky, just efficient. I wasn't sure how the hybrid scales played into stamina or strength, so I went with balanced power. Though, there was one scale that stood out. I tweaked it, made it bigger. Tastefully intimidating. Clothes? Oh, I had choices. I picked hide gear, heavy on the fur. Frost resistance or not, I wasn't looking to freeze my newly minted assets off. That fear of cold? Motivational. It's why I picked hybrid in the first place. Finally, the name. I didn't remember my real one, but that didn't stop me. I clicked my tongue, smirked, and typed, Vec Frostwane. Simple. Sharp. A subtle joke on my icy blood, and even colder resolve. Perfect. Okay. The voice slammed back into existence like a glitchy NPC on a vendetta. I flinched. He definitely did that on purpose. You've got most of your setup. All that's left is your backstory. His tone twisted like a GM dangling doom. If you're lazy or just awful at writing, skip it. You'll spawn somewhere random. But if your story's good, he stared. No, not stared scanned. Like he was patching into my soul through debug mode. Then the voice went flat, robotic. This is the last time you'll hear from me, so stay safe, play smart, don't do anything dumb. Once your backstory's locked, you'll wake oop either where it ends, or where fate throws you. Good luck, gamers, and remember, it just works. And poof, blinked out. The light shifted, spotlighting others I couldn't talk to, couldn't see, alone. Just me and a screen waiting to decide where I'd wake upper if I'd survived the opening cutscene. Do you like this personality? He wasn't born special. No prophecies, no gods, whispering his name, just Vec Frostwane. An odd mix of snow elf and human blood with a half-decent aim and way too much free time. Stuck in a chilly corner of Atmora where his ancestors once stomped around with ambition, he decided being normal sucked. So he crafted a tale, slapped on a heroic filter, and set his sights on Tamriel. Skyrim, to be exact. Getting there? Not free. So he grabbed a bow because apparently everyone up north knows how to shoot and started selling hides like a walking market stall. Archery wasn't even on his skill tree. But hey, survival improvises. Once he racked up enough gold for the journey, he didn't stop stockpiled more like a hoarder with purpose. Inns, homes, the whole comfort package. He didn't just want to travel, he wanted to matter. And this was just the prologue. After a month drifting on the cold sea, he finally reached solitude, but it wasn't wasted time. Between dodging storms and rationing dried fish, he picked up alchemy, smithing, and a few salty tricks from the crew. Enchanting? Nah, that was out of the question, unless one of the sailors was secretly a robed mystic with a side hustle. Still, it didn't need to be a full-blown saga, just enough to sketch a backstory. Rumors from the sailors filled the gaps. Dragons screeching in the clouds, vampires lurking in ancient keeps, whispers of Daedra plotting chaos from the shadows. Maybe those tales would unlock something down the line. He knew which quests were off the table, Serana wasn't his style, the Razor was basically a community prize, and the Dark Brotherhood, too crowded. But Azure's Star and Dawnbreaker? Clean, powerful, drama-free, he locked in the choices with a smirk. Screen faded, game on. When I glanced up, everyone else had vanished like a bugged-out party wipe. Then, boom, blackout. Cue the shouting, rise and shine! My eyes snapped open to a creaking ship interior, and just like that, I was in Skyrim. My limbs moved like I'd always lived here. Natural. Too natural. We were docked already, and stepping out onto the port, the view hit me like a frost troll to the face. Solitude, huh? I muttered. Yeah, it's massive. The sailor gave a knowing nod. You'll get used to it. Winking skeever's your best bet if you're staying low-key. I gave a half nod, half squint. Typical NPC helpfulness. I patted my pockets bingo. One suspiciously bonus speechcraft book and a fat pouch of gold that didn't feel quite Imperial. Either I was lucky, or this beta was already bending the rules, and I planned to break them first. So they might be useless, huh? I slumped onto a nearby crate, flipping open my journal like I was pulling up some arcane system menu only I could see. 6 quests stared back at me too were the rumors I chased down. Something about an old shrine and a weird beacon. Another one wanted me to go dragon hunting across Skyrim, as if that's just a casual errand. One more flagged the Dawnguard vampire hunters. Typical. But the last 2? Those were personal. One demanded I build a name for myself, complete with progress bars for factions and holds, like I was some prestige class waiting to be unlocked. Useful, maybe, if I ever figure out what the hell I want to do here. Then came number 6, a blank slate. A glitch? That's what I thought until I opened it. One line lit up. You have no memories of the past, only about the world you live in now. I narrowed my eyes. That wasn't a bug, that was a challenge. Alteration wasn't just a skill, it was the cheat code Vec Frostwain had been hunting for. Each point pumped into it gave a solid 10% boost, but that was just the appetizer. Stability stretched spell durations like Taffy, magic resistance stacked until enemy spells felt like mosquito bites, and Atronach turned him into a walking magic sponge. All that power was just passive. Then came Mage armor quadrupling, defense is so hard. Dragonhide practically turned into Dragonborn plate. But the real twist? Alter Self. A whole new branch, never before seen, that let Vec sculpt his stats like clay. This wasn't just Skyrim with mods, it was Vec rewriting the code of reality, one perk at a time. 10% here, 10% there, and suddenly I'm bending the laws of physics like they owe me rent. I dumped my first points into alteration proficiency, each one cranking the power by 10%. Then came the classics novice to master, rank sporing but necessary. But the real meat? Stability perks that made my spells last 50%, then 100% longer. Magic resistance stacked up to a cool 50%. The Atronach path? Oh yeah, that bad boy. Let me soak up enemy magic like free coffee refills, 30%, passive absorb at max. And that was just the warm-up. Mage armor? Boosted my defensive spells 2.5x. If my guess was right, that meant Dragonhide would turn me into a walking fortress with over 1,000 armor. But hold your potions, that was nothing. The real shocker was Alter Self, an entire new branch tucked into alteration like a hidden door in a dungeon wall. New perks, new mechanics, new ways to break reality. And this was just one perk tree. Welcome to the deep end. Speechcraft wasn't just a skill tree, it was a tactical war zone dressed in charm. Vec cracked it open like a vault of manipulation. First came proficiency, laying the groundwork. Then boom 3 lethal branches, persuasion, intimidation, bribery sharper than the last. Down persuasion, he snatched points in allure to charm the opposite sex, kinship for racial influence, then dove into bardcraft to weaponize performance, all leading to silver Tungwea, verbal nuke on everyone. Intimidation? Pure vocal warfare. Voice amplified his Thuum, Marauder turned fear into a combat tool, and Beneo banished racial-specific damage boosts like candy, capped off with hatred that lit enemies up just for existing. Bribery brought it home, haggling maxed out gold gain with a 30% boost, making every merchant encounter feel like daylight robbery in Vec's favor. And then came merchant, because why just survive when you can sell survival itself? This perk could charm even beggars into buyers. Fencer followed, legalizing stolen loot with a wink and a smile. Investor? Now that was juicy stacking shop funds with every level, so long as you forked over the coin. But the real spice? Contract. Magic deals, fine print optional. Things escalated fast with Daedra Dealer and Aedra Dealer because who wouldn't want cosmic power on speed dial? Risky? Sure. Worth it? Definitely. Meanwhile, over in the sneaking tree, things branched. Basic sneak buffs one way, sneak attack mayhem the other. Silent? Deadly? Yes, please. Silent as frost on midnight stone, I step through the familiar rhythm sneaking, muffle, lightfoot, silent roll until the world itself seemed to hush. Then came Silent Run and Shadow Blend, turning me into a phantom in the code. But it was the sneak attack scales where the real fun began. Dagger arts gleamed with 8 wicked points, backstab pulsed with 5, and deadly aim whispered with 4 all, feeding the thrill of the one-hit dance. Magic Strike slipped in next, bending arcane shadows to my will. Assassin's Blade poisoned the edges of reality, while Shadowstalk made darkness itself my blade, turning ambushes into cinematic executions 15 times the damage, 15 times the flare. I was satisfied. Maybe too satisfied? My profile flashed up. 10k golden at Morris. About 5k in Imperial coin decent, if humble beginnings. My inventory? A dagger, a bow, some jerky, and a whisper of ambition. Solitude loomed bigger than expected. But that only meant more shadows to disappear into. Chapter 3, Lights Out. Just my luck 3 quests, one brain, and a map that suddenly felt a lot bigger than I remembered. Sure, the plan sounded solid. Grab the Sheogorath quest before anyone else, swing by the Rueful Axe Cave, and end up in Falkreath stacking quests like cards. Easy, right? Except Solitude's docks were now the size of a city, and my legs weren't fast travel enabled. I rubbed my neck, already second-guessing my genius. Then fate, or maybe a glitchy pathing script, shoved an Argonian into me with a concerned, "Whoa there, friend, are you okay?" I froze, not from fear, but calculation. Every interaction was a potential node in my web. And this scaly stranger might just be the first strand. "Ah, Maxis, meet my new friend." Jari grinned like he hadn't just dragged me into 3 kinds of trouble. Maxis barely blinked, arms crossed like a statue with attitude. "You're not dragging him into anything shady down at the docks, are you?" Jari laughed it off the way guilty NPCs always do. "Shady? Me? Never. He's new to Skyrim. I'm just showing him around." Maxis looked me over like he was inspecting contraband. "Where you from, new guy?" I hesitated. Say Atmora, and he'd think I was Mador role-playing too hard. Lore said it vanished, save for one frostbitten trade line. My story was already falling apart. "It's complicated," I said. "I'm from overseas." He nodded slowly, then squinted. "Nord blood, maybe. But what's with those ears?" Ra's smirk froze as he noticed them too. Great. Now I was a glitch in their lore book. "Yup," I said, matching Maxis' stare. "Mostly Nord." "Ah, Maxis, meet my new friend." Ra's voice oozed casual charm like a snake in velvet, while Maxis gave the kind of nod that said, "I've seen things." His glare hit like a frost spell. "You aren't roping them into shady business at the docks again, Jari." "Psh," came the dismissive wave. "I'm just giving a friendly tour. He's new here." The spotlight swiveled to me. Maxis squinted. "Where you from, new guy?" My mind raced. Atmora was lore. Taboo. Roscree was annexed. My backstory? Basically duct tape and hope. I mumbled, "It's complicated." "I come from overseas." Maxis stroked his chin. "Life across the sea? You look Nord." Except for those ears. Jari blinked like he just noticed I wasn't full Nord, bro. I gave Maxis a half smirk. "Yup, mostly Nord." "Ah, Maxis, meet my new friend," Jari said with a sly grin that practically screamed side quest trouble. Maxis gave a curt nod, eyes narrowing like he'd seen this con before. "You're not dragging them into anything shady at the docks again, are you, Jari?" The lizard waved it off like a leaf in the wind. "Shady? Please, I'm a model citizen. He's just new in town. I'm giving him the grand tour." Maxis turned his gaze to me, scanning like a guard scanning for contraband. "Where you from, new guy?" My brain lagged at Mora. Too ancient, too erased. I settled on, "It's complicated. Overseas." He nodded thoughtfully. "A seafarer, huh? You look like a Nord except for those ears." That's when Jari finally noticed. "Yeah, hybrid problems. Still, I kept my poker face and nodded. Mostly Nord." Let the mystery simmer. My ancestors once chained elves like livestock, breeding them without remorse, but instead of shame, they handed their half-blood sons blades and called them warriors. I carry their blood, sharp ears and all, though most Nords just squint past it. Maxis caught on too quick, and before I could vanish into the crowd, he bid me luck. Jari chuckled when we entered Solitude, teasing about ears I'd forgotten to hide. I smirked. It's in the blood, after all. But the city buzzed with something else. Rogvir's body was still warm, his crime a whisper on every tongue. They called him traitor. I called Ulfric a pawn. The Empire's hatred for the Thalmor simmered quietly, but I could see it. They were sharpening their daggers in the dark, waiting for the next move in a game where players never set the rules. I scoffed, muttering under my breath about Thalmor strings tugging at Stormcloak pockets, while Jari just stared blankly at the poor headless sod nearby typical. "You wanted solitude?" he asked, all casual. "Yeah, and maybe an inn without corpses," I replied. He smirked, pointing through the maze of merchant stalls and overpriced souvenirs. "One inn, right there, the Winking Skeever, closer to the center tree not to trip over ambition on your way in." He tossed a nod at the market behind us. That's where locals hawk wares if they're not turning homes into storefronts. A few more steps, and he gestured at a sketchy staircase nailed to someone's rooftop. "Yeah, housing here's like Jenga. Keep stacking until someone falls off." He flashed a grin, throwing in a Bard's College mention like a breadcrumb of culture, then dropped his tone. "Gotta find my sister. Ohand, avoid the sewers." That last part, delivered way too casually to not be hiding a world of trouble. Be careful of those. They recant if you listen closely, the shadows whisper. Jari never said a word about the noble district, or Castle Duer, which was suspicious in itself. I stroked my chin, mind racing through possibilities. Maybe Captain Aldous could wipe out the Blackbloods for me without knowing he was being played. Just then, Jari Ross slinked back toward the winking skeever. Perfect. I'd need his sister, though. One step at a time. Next up, find the crazy old man who starts the Sheogorath quest. Dervanin. Should have been easy to spot. What with his charcoal eyes and lunatic energy? In the original timeline, he drifted around the Bard's College only now. Everything had shifted. The Noble District was a maze on a hill, and the college wasn't where memory insisted it should be. I scratched my head in frustration. A city guard strolled by, and I flagged him down. Seen a ranting old beggar named Dervanin? He sneered. That old lunatic? Why would you want him? I exhaled slowly. Because that master he won't shut up about. Yeah, I know who that is. Let's just say I need Dervanin to track down someone a lot more dangerous. I scrolled through my quest log as the crisp morning wind bit at my cloak then. I spotted him. Dervanin! Snoring like a banshee tangled in bushes. I jabbed a stick at the lunatic. Master, is that you? He mumbled, eyes crusty and wide. Not exactly, I smirked, but I can fetch him from the Pelagius wing if you hand over the hip bone. His whole face lit up like I'd offered him moon sugar. You know, master. Yes, here, the key, you need it. I nodded, pocketed the thing it wasn't for a door, more like a mental rabbit hole. Look, I can't handle this today, but I'll drag your mad god back before month's end. Dervanin sighed dreamily. Ah, he does love his distractions. Good luck then. I'm going back to sleep. Nighty-night. He curled into a ball, mumbling nonsense as I backed away. No tip. I'd rather not explain why I'm flashing golden Atmaran coins to a shrub-hugging nutjob. I'll save that twist for later. I'll swing back with some septims for him once I'm not broke. I stared at the hip bone. Seriously, what kind of inventory wizardry was this? Where was he even keeping it? More importantly, where was I keeping my gold? I slipped the bone into my pocket poof gone, right? Inventory logic. I overanalyzed it since my dagger and gear were actually strapped to me. Anyway, journal time. Lights Out now had bonus betrayal content, and apparently I'd triggered Mind of Madness too. Fun. I poked around the journal tabs quests, profile, Mapand, spotted the settings icon. I'd never touched it before. Naturally, I clicked it, and oh, the weirdness I found. He didn't want to spoil the twist just yet. Later, maybe he'd toss the man a handful of septums so he could crash at the inn like a normal NPC. But for now, the hip bone stole the spotlight. Vex stared at it. Seriously? Where the hell had this guy pulled it from? A secret pocket in the void? And where would he even store something like this? His thoughts spiraled until the gold question hit literally where was his gold kept? With a sigh, he slipped the bone into his pocket and poof, gone. Inventory magic confirmed. He'd been overthinking it, clearly. His dagger and gear? Still physically on him. He opened his journal BAMquest updates. Lights Out now pointed toward evidence against a certain shady dock worker, and the chaos of Mind of Madness had officially been triggered. Curiosity piqued, he eyed the journal's tabs. Quests, profile map, and a gear icon he'd always ignored. Time to click it. System settings open and oh, things were about to get interesting. System notifications? On. Journal colors? Customized. But the system organizations? Ugh, pure chaos. This is why you always check settings first, people. I groaned, cracked my knuckles, and dove in. 3 new tabs split clean from the bloated profile page. Skill trees, stats, and the almighty inventory. Clicked it open, tapped on the hip bone poof. It materialized in my hand like conjuration magic. Nice. Tossed it back into the tab gone again. Satisfying. All right, I muttered. Let's see what kind of trouble's on the bulletin board. Fast forward through hiking up Solitude's dumb hills who build cities like this, and I hit the training grounds near Castle Dur. Found the board, scanned it. Mostly boring delivery jobs and fetched this junk. Then, one scribbled note about the Black Blood Marauders. Huh. Suspicious. I leaned in. Might be nothing. But then again, in this game, nothing usually means everything. Wait, something felt off. Vex's eyes narrowed as he spotted the cryptic posting. Solitude Underground. A sewer system coiled within the mountain, where lights glow without source and whispers carry without wind. Dangerous, they said. Unknowable, they warned. Perfect. Snatching the note, the quest etched itself into his journal like a dare. But priorities, she still needed Captain Aldous for the next move in Lights Out. He found the man mid-training drill, barking commands with military grace. Captain Aldous, sir! Vec called, slipping easily into the role of the naive foreigner with secrets. Aldous turned, recognition flickering behind those stern eyes. You entered after the execution. Vec nodded. Guided by Jari Ra. I'm not from around here across oceans, actually. The captain raised a brow. And what's this got to do with me? Vec didn't blink. He extended the bulletin note like a poisoned letter. Black Blood Marauders. Had a run-in with them. Thought you'd like to compare notes. Why couldn't I dive deeper into my past? As I laid out my story, the old captain's eyes narrowed. He was piecing it together fast. That pirate group? I said, they got chased off thanks to the crew that sheltered me. Couple of mages helped. Just setting the stage, really. His brow arched. This tied to Jari Ra and his folks? Sharp, man. I'd only said Jari Ra was my city contact. So I pushed on. When I hit Solitude, I was dazzled and disoriented. That's when he showed up offering unmissable goods, scavenging with his sister. The captain scratched his beard, muttering about past suspicions and failed arrests. No proof? Neither did I. But I've got a plan, I said. He asked me to snuff the Solitude lighthouse flame. That did it. The realization hit him like a frost wound to the face. They're targeting the Ice Runner. That ship's loaded with war supplies. I raised an eyebrow. So, what's the move? He gave me that smirk, the kind that meant trouble. We snuff the lighthouse fire. The Ice Runner crashes. We ambush the Black Bloods and maybe nab one of the siblings. Get their hideout. Launch a raid. I leaned back, calculating. Only problem? Skyrim's kind of on fire right now. Troops are stretched thin. He nodded grimly. Forsworn uprising pulled men to the Reach. No spare blades. I could feel the tension coil tighter. No proof the siblings were working together. No way to justify moving soldiers. He rubbed his beard, thinking, how sharp are you with a blade? I shrugged, sharper with a bow. He motioned to the weapons rack. Then prove it. Let's see if you're more than a mouth. I hesitated, reading the subtext. This wasn't just target practice, this was the first test. The sun dipped low, bleeding gold over the stone walls of Solitude as I watched him vanish into the training yardsward. Clashing, orders barked, shadows stretching. I needed to grind fast. Skills don't level themselves. But first, the winking skeever. The tavern reeked of stale ale and sweat-soaked ambitions, exactly the place to stir chaos. 3 recruits on my mind, 1 for coin, 1 for revenge, 1 for thrill. As Lizette's song threaded through the smoky air, half forgotten but oddly stirring, I zeroed in on the first target, posted at the reception desk like fate was checking in. I smirked. Got a room for the night? Sorex didn't even blink. 10 gold! My hand went to my neck. Smooth entry. Now, let's see if he's as useful as he is grumpy. The sun dipped low, bleeding warmth over Solitude's ramparts, as Vec Frostwain narrowed his eyes. I'll see if I can get a few extra hands on board, the strategist muttered, already calculating the probabilities. Try to do the same when you have time. He didn't wait for an answer he never did, and stalked off toward the guards mid-swing. The golden hour cast long shadows, and Vec felt the grind itch under his skin. Practice called, Skill Points whispered. But first tavern time. Let's hit the winking skeever, he thought, smirking. That place reeked of sweat, secrets, and just enough chaos to cook up a plan. He entered through creaky doors into a wave of spiced ale and half-sung tunes. 3 recruits danced in his mental rostron Merc for hire, 1 revenge-obsessed, and 1 dangerously bored. Perfect. A familiar tune brushed his ears Lizette's voice, haunting and unfamiliar. He made a mental note. Get her on his side, if not her playlist. Spotting his first target, Vec approached with a disarming grin. Got a room for the night? Sorex barely looked up. 10 gold. Vec scratched his neck, already scheming how to get it discounted or reimbursed. The game wasn't just survival. It was manipulation, persuasion, and control. And this tavern? Just the first domino. Is this conversation helpful so far? I don't suppose you'll take these? I flipped a gleaming goldenette mora into the air, letting it catch the tavern light. Sorex squinted, curious. Can I see that? I nodded, tossing it over. He turned it in his fingers, brow furrowing. It's smaller than a septum, but I've never seen gold like this before. Enter stage left, his father, drawn by the scent of confusion. What's going on? Sorex handed him the coin like it was cursed. The old man examined it, turning it against the flame. Smaller, yeah, but pure gold. Feels like an ancient Nord relic, except it looks fresh out of the forge. What is this? I scratched the back of my neck, trying to sound nonchalant. Golden at Mora, pretty standard where I'm from. We don't use imperial coin. And just like that, the air got colder not from the gold, but from the questions it didn't answer. Do you like this personality? Corpolis arched an eyebrow, voice dripping disbelief. A golden at Mora? Like the myth? I just nodded. He shrugged. Fine, but they're worth half. Double it up. 20 clinks later, Sorex slid me the room key. I asked about the inn's name. He groaned. Dad said a skeever winked at him. Truth? It was a bald mutt from Hammerfell, ugly thing. He called it skeever for laughs. I smirked. You gonna inherit this circus? He chuckled. I already run the joint. Deliveries, guests, even the ledgers mostly. But I don't want this forever. Thought about the Legion. But war? Not my vibe. I nodded again. Right. You were there for Rogvir's chop show. Is this conversation helpful so far? Sorex leaned on the table with a crooked smirk. Yeah, known him since we were knee-high to a frost troll. Total brute. No one really liked the guy. Before he got the axe, he wouldn't shut up about the Stormcloaks. Honestly, it's half the reason I thought about signing up with the Legion just to spite him. I scanned the room. Jari. Ra's got one more sibling, Gulam Ibud. He's clean. No ties to the Black Bloods. Still, didn't want him catching wind of this. No scaly ears in sight, so I turned back to Sorex. Ever talk to Captain Aldous, I asked. He's got jobs for folks stuck in solitude. Dangerous ones, too. With the war pulling all the heavy hitters, there's room for the bravier the board. Sorex raised a brow. Fight what exactly? I gave a lazy shrug. Wolves. Bandits. Maybe a dragon if you're lucky. He let out a bark of laughter, grabbed his towel, and went back to wiping the counter. All right, you got me. I'll ask him. Just then, something clicked in my head. That smooth back and forth, that glint in his eye. My speechcraft must have ticked up again. Ha! Level up by sarcasm. Classic. He never asked my name and I never offered it. Almost level 2, but something feels off with the skill trees. Maybe I got duped? Looks like dumping points into proficiency speeds things up. I'll test that once I sleep and grab my first skill point. For now, I needed a drink. Just some basic ale, I told the barkeep. 4 septums, he grunted. I tossed down 8. Generosity buys silence. With ale in hand, I slid into a seat across from a man in battered armor. He was mid-chew on a sad-looking pile of potatoes. His eyes met mine. What do you want? He asked. You're a mercenary, right? I replied, sipping. He gave a dry nod. Not much work lately, nothing worth doing. Not into chopping up bandits for local guards? I smirked. He gave a lopsided grin. I'd rather guard some noble's backside for 500 gold. He leaned forward slightly. Name's Belrand. You hiring? I shrugged like the question bored me. Sort of. Listen up, Palyor. Answer hinges on 2 questions. Are you game for danger? And will you take these shiny little Atmaran coins as hazard pay? The seasoned sellsword eyes the gold, strokes his beard, and smirks. 2 of these equal 1 standard piece? Fine by me. So, what's the score? Cue the reveal. A covert strike for the city's captain. Hunting ruthless marauders on the high seas, with no official backup, just a tight squad and a promise of glory. The veteran chews on the idea, forks clinking, then slams his plate down like a war drum. Pirates, huh? The infamous black blood lot? Count me in, I've been itching for real action. And if you need extra muscle, the local headsman's axe would love a taste of pirate plank. Deal struck, sword sheathed, and a hush falls over the tavern as fate readies its next splash page. He was right there, sipping Blackbriar like he owned the place. That's the guy me next recruit. I gave a nod, ready to drop the gold, but he waved it off with that veteran swagger. If this is all this is doing, I'll bleed coin out of him myself, he said. I smirked. Perfect. Time to hunt down Ottar. As I walked over, he didn't even glance. Seat's taken, he growled. I just nodded. Jala, right? Relax. I'll vanish the second she shows. But let's talk escapees. That got his attention. All right, but the second she's here, you ghost. I gave the nod deal made. Then I leaned in, dropping the name that would light the fire. Hargar, he broke out. Pretty weird how that happened. Ottar nodded, confirming the prison break of a notorious marauder captain someone Vec just happened to run into during a pirate ambush en route to Solitude. With a sly smirk, Vec dangled the truth. Not only did he know where the fugitive was, but he knew who cracked the cell door open. Ottar's eyes lit up like a man offered revenge on a platter. Jala entered mid-convo, curious, but Vec brushed it off just business. As he turned to leave, Ottar called out his loyalty, already hooked by the promise of chaos. Talk to Aldous, Vec replied coolly. The pieces were moving. His journal chimed, speechcraft up, level gained, power was stacking. Do you like this personality? When I drifted off to sleep, I didn't wake up in bed. I woke up in a cosmos of floating stars, each one pulsing with potential. Skill trees, shimmering and alive. I stepped toward the first. Lockpicking still garbage. Acrobatics was next, and okay, that one had legs. Boosted stamina, flashy leaps, might be worth a few points. I skipped the familiar and scoped out the newcomers. Hand to hand? Meh. Too vanilla. But claws caught my eye might synergize with certain beastly builds. Then came the jackpot. Empowerment. A skill tree wired into my bloodline. Nord and Snow Elf perks? Yes, please. With every hybrid race baked into this glitch-happy world, the combinations were madness. This wasn't just skill optimization, it was a blueprint for domination. Do you like this personality? Lucky and unlucky figures. The novice perks in the other trees worked just fine, but it was the bonus I picked for alteration that flipped the script. I didn't need to slog through spellbooks, the knowledge just flowed. I slammed a perk point into novice alteration, took a breathe and boomy, brain got flash flooded with spell data like I downloaded a mage's entire career in seconds. When the rush ended, I was still floating in that surreal dreamscape, staring at a fancy door, clearly the exit. But right next to it, my magic profile, fully editable. I couldn't resist. The passive effects section greeted me with 3 entries. Frost, resistance obvious. Atmora native interesting. Ancient race mysterious. Atmora native in particular had a strange edge to it. Something powerful, something forgotten. In the surreal dreamscape of skill trees, Vec Frostwain stood at the threshold of power, half laughing, half calculating lucky and unlucky all at once. The novice perks played nice across the board, but it was alteration where things truly clicked. 1 perk, 1 breath, and his mind detonated with arcane insight spells once distant, now etched into his soul like frost on glass. The world shifted but didn't end. He wasn't waking up yet. Instead, an ornate door loomed, promising escape, but beside it, a mirror to his magic self. A profile panel pulsed with editable power. Vec chuckled. Magic could be rewritten here. First stop? His passives. Frost resistance. Expected. Atmora native. Intriguing. Ancient race. Mysterious. But that native buff? Oh, it had teat hand he planned to bite. In a realm where only the fiercest survive, the Atmoran natives are born into brutality. Strength isn't earned. It's inherited before birth. Carved into bone by the frozen winds of a forgotten land. I stared at the passive effects screen. No numbers, no percentages, just cryptic hints. One effect, Ancient Race, simply whispered that my skills would get a 5% boost when dealing with my kind. No clue how the rest worked, but I wasn't done. I triggered Spell Conversion Boom 3 new spells. Grant Frost Resistance, a whopping 50% boost. Adversity, trade stamina for health and mana, and the hilariously named Senior Discount, which cranked up my bartering. And yeah, the best part? The passive stayed. I could shuffle the deck, swap spells, and still keep the aces. But the twist? The spells didn't always match their origins. A Frostborn Legacy gave me a barter buff? Sure, magic's weird. I browsed through alterations, spells Candlelight, Oakflesh, Equilibrium, all familiar. Then I spotted newcomers like Alarm, Splinter, and Lock. The rules were bending, and I was just getting started. Sure-footed had its perks, but not without a downside. Still, with a shield, could be deadly. I paused, then tapped into Divergence, and Fusion clicked, converted, done. 2 new passives. Division and Harmony. My eyes lit up. Division? Meh, not amazing but useful. Slows all skill growth by 20%, but every level up drops a 10-point bonus across the board. Harmony, though? That one was nuts. Level up 1 skill, and neighboring trees get a free ride, only 25% of the XP. Sure, but still, level 1-handed, 2-handed, and archery tag along. It was like XP osmosis. Of course, they had to nerf it somehow. Just as I was scheming how to break the system wide open, those big double doors flung open, white light stabbing through, then bam, I snapped awake in bed. Morning sun, cold sweat, just a dream, or did the grind just begin? Sure-footed had its drawbacks, but with a shield, it could be a game changer, at least in theory. Vec hovered over his options, eyes sharp with calculation, then tapped into Divergence and Fusion, converting them without hesitation. The air shimmered as Division and Harmony embedded themselves as passives. Division? Not ideal, but sneaky good. All skill progress slowed by 20%, but every skill level up juiced every other skill by 10 points. It was a slow burn power boost, and the more he thought about it, the more dangerous it felt. Harmony, though? That was nuts. It linked neighboring skills level 1, and the others followed. Not equally, but enough to matter. One-handed leveling gave a taste of EXP to two-handed and archery. Only 25%. But in Vec's hands, even a quarter was lethal. The logic was sound, it couldn't be too OP. Just then, twin doors of searing white light burst open. No time to react. His eyes shot open bedroom. Dawn. Was it real? Was it a dream? Or was the beta rewriting reality itself? The muffled sounds of reality were leaking in. Yeah, time's up in the dreamscape. With a groggy yawn, I peeled myself out of bed and decided to pay Captain Aldous a visit. But first, the fusion and divergent spells. Nope. Still too much mana for the waking world. Later then. At the training grounds near Castle Dur, Aldous was already waiting with 5 figures lined up. Familiar faces, Sorex, Belrand, Atar. Unexpected ones too, Bulgir Bearclaw, one of Elisif's core pieces, and Noster Eagle-Eye, who apparently eavesdropped his way into this mission. This everyone? I asked, squinting at the new recruits. Aldous didn't miss a beat. Get over here. Bulger's insurance from the Jarl, and Noster volunteered. Still swears he's got the eyes of a hawk. Noster gave a solemn nod. Let me redeem myself for the trying. Alright then, the board was set and the pieces were moving. Noster would snuff the lighthouse blaze while I stayed back, ready to tip off Jari Ra that the light had gone out. Bolgier and Belrand off to clean up the Ice Runner crash site, taking care of any curious rats sniffing around. Then it's game time, me, Atar, Sorex, and Aldous tail Jari Ra to his hideout ambush style. The plan? Storm the Black Blood lair and drag those scum out in shackles. Solid tactic, sure, but I had an ace up my sleeve. I already knew where their lair was. What if Jari Ra didn't run straight home like a good little villain? What if we wasted time? Nah, I was once an info broker. I'd already cracked the case. Broken Ore Grotto, tucked along the icy northern coast, just northwest of Solitude's lighthouse. I suggested we grab Jari Ra now, flip the script, and use him as bait. Loyalty? Please pirates fold faster than wet parchment. The others were stunned, jaws slack. How did you wear what? I couldn't help smirking. Irony's a cruel friend. Guess where he's hiding? Right under the light he tried to kill. Aldous barked a laugh. Even Fate's got a sense of humor. Noster would snuff the lighthouse flame while I hung back to tip off Jari Ra baiting the trap. Bolgier and Belrand? Off to the Ice Runner wreck to mop up any stragglers. Then the fun part. Me, Sorex, Atar, and Aldous tail Jari Ra to his so-called hideout. Or so they thought. Truth was, I already knew where the Black Bloods were holed up. Tracking him was a waste of time and risk. I rubbed my beard, eyes gleaming with a plan too clever for coincidence. We don't follow him, we arrest him. Use him as bait. Trust me, loyalty runs thin in that crew. 6 jaws dropped. You found their lair already? I smirked. Broken Ore Grotto. North coast, northwest of the lighthouse. Ironic, huh? Aldous let out a chuckle. Yeah, figures. We had men scouting that route for weeks every time. Nothing. Now I get it. They were hiding in plain sight, using the lighthouse itself as a mask. Smart. Bolger gave a slow nod, piecing it together. So that's how he kept slipping out. There's a dock tunnel through the mountain shortcut city escape. Atar was already pacing, fists clenched. Then why not just drag him in now? But Sorex cut in, eyes sharp. Because Deeja's still in the city. She sees him arrested, the whole plan collapses. No, wait. We don't even need to risk the Ice Runner. Think about it, they know where it'll crash. So what if we're already there, waiting? I leaned in, gears turning, an ambush. Risky, but tight. If they're crawling through the night fog after the crash. Bolgier snapped his fingers. Exactly, but how would they move the loot back? I cracked a grin. By boat. Do you like this personality? They're taking boats to follow the Ice Runner perfect. We'll track them from the shadows. But this has to be a tight, synchronized dance. Belrand chimes in, oh so casual. I can use candlelight. I flash a grin, so can I? We've got our signal system. Magical flares in the night. All this reworks the whole plan right there. Noster kills the lighthouse light. Bolgier and Belrand tail the smugglers by sea. Vec drops a lie to Jari Ra. Then links up with Atar and Sorex for a Black Blood beatdown at the grotto. Aldous himself will corner Jari Ra with a bogus dock search. Then plot twist re-enters the room with a glowing staff like it's loot drop time. Staff of Magelight. Now we're locked, loaded, and lit up for a signal. Spell ambush. The plan was stitched tighter than a Blackbriar bribe. Noster was to watch the sea, waiting for Belrand's flicker candlelight being our silent signal to spark the lighthouse back to life. I gave the nod. Once the light returned, we'd strike the Black Bloods right in their salt-soaked nest. My turn to shine would come with my own flicker, marking the job done and summoning Noster to report back to Captain Aldous. Bolgier, grinning like a saber cat in Moonsugar, mentioned a personal Botah backup escape for the city's queen, now rebranded as our stealth ride. We all smirked. Showtime. As dusk crept over Solitude, Noster took his post, and I lingered near the docks, eyes locked on the lighthouse. Flame vanished. Go time. I dashed to Jari Ra, lungs burning, words broken between breaths. Jari! Ra! It's done. We're good, yeah? He turned, teeth flashing. Friend! Haha, very nice. My sister awaits Deeja. His grin didn't sit right. Something told me the real game had just begun. She'll handle the rest of me job, stay out of sight, and make sure everything goes down smooth. I gave a quick nod, thumb up mission A-go. Bolger and Belrand clocked the signal, moving like clockwork out of the docks. I slipped into the shortcut, circled past the lighthouse, snow biting at my heels as I dashed toward Broken Ore Grotto. One bad slide later, face full of snow, I was up and dusting off when I heard it. Over here! Sorex and Atar flagged me down from the shadows. I crept over and took in the scene. The grotto? Still a cave, sure, but now draped in wreckage. Ship ribs arching like broken bones over the tide-washed entrance. Nothing screamed trap louder, but that's where we were headed. If the idiot's meeting us at the wreck, why are we always the ones rowing out? Bord muttered, earning a groan from Deja. Every time you speak, my IQ drops. Boats slipped off into the mist while we watched in silence. Didn't expect them to actually go, Attar admitted. I smirked. Bai's bell rang and Baldur timed to warn the ice runner before it crashes. Sorex gave a nod, flipping a deck from his cloak. While we wait for Nostr to light the beacon again, cards? Attar shrugged. So did I. Deal us in. We played beneath the sky, choked with tension, eyes flicking to the lighthouse. When it was my turn, I saw it fire, cutting through the dark. Beacon's up, time to move. Sorex sighed, scooping the cards. Figures, I was about to lose. Attar reached for his axe. Sorex's sword hissed from its sheath. So, what's the play? I was already halfway gone. I'll sneak in first. Shadows swallowed me whole. If the fool is meeting us at the wreck, why do we always leave on boats? Bord grumbled, earning a sharp glare from Deja. Shut up, Bord. I lose brain cells every time you talk. More boats were sent out into the icy dark, vanishing like ghosts on black glass. Attar crossed his arms. Didn't think they'd leave so fast. I smirked. Buys Baldur and Belran, time to hit the ice runner before things go sideways. Sorex raised a brow. While we wait for Nostr to spark the lighthouse, I've got cards. Game? I glanced at Attar. He shrugged. We both answered, sure, lay them out. Cards slapped the stone. Time crawled. Eyes flicked toward the dark silhouette of the lighthouse waiting. Then, light. My turn to check, and there it was. The fire was lit. The lighthouse is up. We move. Sorex groaned, sweeping up the cards. Figures I was going to lose anyway. Attar pulled his axe. Sorex unsheathed his blade. How are we doing this? Attar asked. I cracked a grin. I sneak in first. And like smoke, I slipped into the cave. Water sloshed at his boots as Vec crept closer, eyes locked on the two black blood guards near the jagged cave entrance. Deja left already. Shouldn't Jarira be here? One muttered. How should I know? Maybe he got someone dumb enough to snuff the lighthouse. Vec inched up the rickety stairs, patience thinning as their chatter dragged on. With a sigh, he whipped a knife into the nearest throat clean. Silent, effective. Cue, anchor. Too late. Vec snatched the other's sword, drove it through his ribs like slicing chilled meat. The last one stumbled back, clutching his neck, but Vec's new blade found his spine fast. Sorex whistled. Damn, that was impressive. Attar nodded. We move like this. No telling if they've got another way out. Vec scavenged a bow, slinging it over his shoulder. Sorex hesitated. So, we killing everyone? Attar's voice was firm. Most. The captain and any who surrender, we take them alive. Sorex grimaced. Okay, but I've never actually killed anyone, so I'm out on that. Vec nodded coolly. No problem. Attar gave me a look, the kind that says do it clean, not go wild, and I gave one back. Message received. We fanned out, me on the left, Attar and Sorex sliding right like shadows. One guard, clueless, throat open before he could yawn. I slammed the drawbridge lever with my boot, metal groaning as it lowered. Sorex quipped about ship parts. Attar muttered about permanence. Orders flew Vec on flank, they'd handle sleepers. Sorex nodded like tying people up was breakfast. I slipped down another path, hit a second bridge, no lever. Of course! Backtrack time! I caught up with them mid-tie, stuffing unconscious raiders into sleeping bags like bedtime burritos. I smirked. Clever. They glanced up. Dead end? Drawbridge with no lever. Great. 8 targets, 1 playing lookout, I muttered, eyes narrowed. We take him out quiet, then sweep left and strike fast. They nodded. Silent steps. The lookout barely had time to gasp before Attar slammed his skull into the stone and tied him up like a parcel. Sorex leaned in, whispering, So, how do we start this chaos? He pointed to the shabby base below. I shrugged. How much loot's worth grabbing from that mess? Attar looked baffled. Some's war spoils, some East Empire stock. Hard to tell. I pulled a torch from the wall, the flames flickering in sync with the tension. Below, a guy was mopping up shimmering liquid. That wine? I asked. Sorex peered closer, nodding. Firebrand! Spilled more of that than I've poured, and when it goes up, it really goes up. I crashed into one guy while Sorex dashed downstairs like a madman, snagged another dude and tied him up with freakish speed. Then some lunatic came swinging at him, but I parried with my own blade. No, you don't! And drove a knee into his leg so hard he folded like bad origami. My sword found his neck, and the rest, easy pickings. Sorex cracked up. Whoa, close one! I shot him a thumbs up while we trussed the rest like roast chickens. Upstairs, we caught Attar just wrapping up his duel with Harger who, surprise, wasn't dead but wasn't doing great either. Attar waved casually over his broken axe. You guys good? Sorex nodded. Close call, but Vec, here's got serious combat hacks? I just shrugged. Hit where it hurts. Plus, luck. Truth is, I had no clue why I was that smooth in battle. Probably thanks to that Atmora native backstory perk I clicked on a whim. Total luck roll. He alive? Atar gave a lazy nod. Yup. Broke my axe, so I broke his skull accidentally. Think it was a warhammer on that rack. Sorex chuckled. Nice. Guess he's off to the block? Atar shrugged. No jailbreak this time. I tapped my chin. Someone check those cells. I'm betting 20 gold there's a secret passage. Atar smirked. Solid bet. I rifled through Hargar's pockets, ding. A key. Hidden chest, obviously. Tossed it to Sorex. Feel like freezing your hands off for loot? Atar peered over the ledge. Bet it's stashed in that wrecked ship. Sorex laughed. That water's ice. Atar pointed at a dying fire. There's heat, and maybe some half-cooked corpses. We should get him out. Do you like this personality? He alive? Atar gave a lazy nod. Yup. Broke my axe, so I broke his skull accidentally. Think it was a warhammer on that rack. Sorex chuckled. Nice. Guess he's off to the block? Atar shrugged. No jailbreak this time. I tapped my chin. Someone check those cells. I'm betting 20 gold there's a secret passage. Atar smirked. Solid bet. I rifled through Hargar's pockets, ding. A key. Hidden chest, obviously. Tossed it to Sorex. Feel like freezing your hands off for loot? Atar peered over the ledge. Bet it's stashed in that wrecked ship. Sorex laughed. That water's ice. Atar pointed at a dying fire. There's heat, and maybe some half-cooked corpses. We should get them out. Do you like this personality? Good luck with that. I waved, turning toward the flare duty. Sorex grumbled. Lucky bastard. I smirked, pulling up my skill list, mid-step sneak, just a hair away from leveling. I crouch-walked like a deranged crab, determined to tick it over before exiting the cave. Cut to Chapter 10. Cheers! The winking skeever buzzed with ale and smug satisfaction. Sorex raised his voice. Father, around for the table! Corpola strolled over, pride half hidden behind a grin. Back already? Was your little escapade worth the hangover, Sorex? Laughter cracked through the tavern as Sorex turned crimson. One round of mead, Corpolis declared like a king with a tight purse. Aldous chimed in. That's enough for me, Bulgier. The old guard shrugged. Might as well can't resist when it's free. Even stone-faced Atar broke in. I'll schedule Jari, Ra, Hargar, and Deja next week. The rest? Staggered across the month. The plan was rolling, the room warm, and for a moment even in this glitch-riddled, danger-crawling sim things almost felt real. Do you like this personality? It's gonna be chaos. Bulger just shrugs like it's no big deal, those troublemakers are out, and now the guards can finally pitch in where it counts. Captain Aldous grunts approval, glad the supplies are back with the Legion and ready to hand over the stolen goods. Victoria Lost turns out she's marrying someone from Riften. Belrand, rubbing his shiny dome, jokes about his lost good looks and then turns to me, eyes narrowed. What's your move? I've been thinking, this all started with me, didn't it? I'll build an information guild, something sharp, something useful. Back where I'm from, I worked alone, watching skies and battling monsters. But now I've got a feeling I know where the enemy's funding comes from, and if I'm right, it's going to give Ulfric one nasty ulcer. Sorex, ever the tavern whisperer, strokes his chin and leans in, grinning. Mind if I join? You know where the rumors really live. Jarira lunged with a dagger, the second things went sideways classic, backstab moment, and of course, Noster, armorless as ever, took the hit. Well, someone muttered, if he dies, Somgard's not bad. If he lives, maybe a coin or two. Sorex shot me a look. So, where you from? Been eyeing those flashy coins of yours. I scratched my neck, half laughing. Truth? A mess. So I gave them the simplified legend. Atmora, the last frozen stronghold Jilkarfik. The continent's drifting north, freezing by the day. It's complicated, but yeah, simple. Their eyes widened like I dropped a dragon egg. You're from Atmora? I nodded, calm as a blizzard. Traders don't talk, but I'm not one of them. Belran frowned. No offense, but what's worth anything on a frozen rock? I grinned, cold as my homeland. Silver, ebony, enough to buy a new future. Jarira lunged with a dagger. The second things went sideways classic, backstab momentane, of course, Noster, armorless as ever, took the hit. Well, someone muttered. If he dies, Sovngarde's not bad. If he lives, maybe a coin or two. Sorex shot me a look. So, where you from? Been eyeing those flashy coins of yours. I scratched my neck, half laughing. Truth? A mess. So I gave them the simplified legend, Atmora, The last frozen stronghold Jill Kerfic. The continent's drifting north, freezing by the day. It's complicated, but yeah, simple. Their eyes widen like I'd dropped a dragon egg. You're from Mora? I nodded, calm as a blizzard. Traders don't talk, but I'm not one of them. Belrand frowned. No offense, but what's worth anything on a frozen rock? I grinned, cold as my homeland. Silver, ebony, enough to buy a new future. I woke up expecting the dreamscape and nothing. No level up, no surreal visions, just the dull return of reality. That confirmed it. I was close, but not quite there yet. Next objective. Meridia's Beacon. A lucky quest drop, maybe. But luck doesn't mean undeserved. Map check somewhere near Falkreath. I had a strong hunch, but I needed more than instincts. This was about testing the rules. Were these key items always available, even before their quests unlocked? If so, I could bend the narrative before it bent me. Azura's Star, Meridia's Beacon, they didn't care about my level, others did. I recalled a spot near Solitude that might have answers, might give me the edge. Problem? 21 other players roamed this corrupted, Skyr many of them could have scorched Falkreath clean of leads. I couldn't afford to chase shadows. On top of that, I had a web of lies to maintain, and that meant sharpening my speechcraft. In a game where reality glitches and quests echo with ghost code, your tongue can be sharper than any blade. I had this gut-level hunch that Throoms weren't just plug-and-play like the speechcraft book. I'd unlocked it, felt like the simulation was gatekeeping me hard. I cracked open my bonus tome, sure, understood every syllable, every rhetorical glyph etched into that forbidden margin. But no shouts came. Zero dragon juice. My magic tab didn't even have a shout slot like I wasn't coded right. That's when it hit me. Secret skill trees. Not just the lycanthrope and vampire branches I'd glimpsed before, no. Maybe there was a legacy framework baked in, exclusive to those like me. Something locked behind the Dragonborn protocol. I needed proof. So, I ghosted out of the city at dawn, inventory packed, instinct sharp. The shoreline was quiet until I passed Broken Ore Grotto, where I spotted some figures hauling gear looked like Ice Runner types. I didn't stop. I had to see how deep this anomaly went. Solitude was colossal, nothing like the old version. 500,000 simulated souls, maybe? Hard to tell. So many new faces, and too many familiar ones warped by patch decay. I paused beneath a jagged cliff, eyes tracing up where I was maybe just maybe half certain the Steed Stone should be. That stone was more than a buff. It was a system check. If it worked, everything else might too. I scaled the rocks with surprising SNO Skyrim-style bunny hopping this time until I reached a narrow ledge cloaked in silence and morning glitch fog. Bandits. Sleeping. Predictable. I slipped forward. Blade low, one throat, then another. Stealth wasn't just viable, it was broken again. That scared me. Combat was sharper now, yes, but also deadlier in a blink. One mistake, and you dissolve into respawn static. I reached out. Fingers grazed the cold glyph. A pulse. Light arc skyward like the gods blinking. Then the confirmation, the Steed Stone activated. I smiled. The world still ran by rules, at least for now. Upgraded? That one word echoed like a bugged audio file looping in my skull. I wasn't sure if I was excited or alarmed. Increased carry weight and zero movement penalty? Blessing skill tree? Obviously. I checked the map destination, Rimmerock Burrow. I knew what I'd find, or rather what I wouldn't, because that cursed axe only manifested once you started the dog's quest. Details didn't matter. Instinct did. I slipped past some clueless wolf stealth leveled up again. Not that it helped against the memories. The cave loomed like a bugged asset, just floating there in the game's stitched logic. From memory? A wizard and a leveled Atronak. With the former already shafted by Clavicus, I crept in low, slow, calculating. The Atronak shimmered ahead, firelight glitching through the walls. It was drawing? Flames sketching spirals in the dirt. Huh. Guess Daedra really do think. Sentient code, trapped in a loop. Just like me, I waited for the Atronach to drift off, its molten scowl leaving a trail of heat, and slipped into the cave's shadow like a glitch in the Matrix No Way. I was going head to head while the wizard was still active code. Then came the voice, sharp and suspicious. Who's there? He turned not toward me, but to his summoned sentinel, barking like a panicked script. You should be patrolling. What if Clavicus is sending assassins again? The fiery brute sulked off, flaming curves and all, clearly tired of being underutilized. I raised a brow. Even summon code has attitude. I almost moved, but then the wizard muttered something that froze my spine harder than any frost spell. Separated him from his pet. The shrine. Ruined by those cursed vampires. But if I get more time, I can cure her. My daughter. Daughter? That wasn't base game lore. Lycanthropy? Deviations, corrupted quest lines, none of this belonged in original Skyrim, which meant it was time to rewrite the script again. I waited for the fire-brained brute to get bored and crept into the cave, staying low. No way I'd tango fair with that thing, not while the robed glitch with a god complex was still lurking. I froze as he whipped around, paranoid and twitchy, barking at the elemental like it owed him rent. Why are you here? Get outside before Clavicus Vile ports in a contract killer. He snapped, clearly unraveling. The flaming nuisance actually looked a Fendago figure, a pile of magma with mood swings, and slithered off in a huff. I stayed hidden, waiting for the perfect moment. But instead of turning away, the wizard muttered like an unpatched NPC, lamenting his failed plan, blaming vampires, and ranting about curing his lycanthropic daughter who, far as I knew, didn't even exist in the base code of Skyrim. She'd either starve or go full Lycan berserk mode in solitude. Yeah, that didn't make headlines. I sighed. The Atronach hadn't stepped into the cave, so it didn't hear anything. Good. My eyes locked on the Rufalax, just sitting there, waiting like it had RSVP'd. I swiped it into my inventory without ceremony. 2 black soul gems and a skill book classic loot drop. Ah, the catalog of enchantments. Nice touch. Then I slid around the corner to where the guy was sleeping. Smelled like someone had saved on death and never respawned. Cracked open his chest some gold, a shiny sapphire, more soul gems. The plan was probably creepy. I didn't stick around to decipher. I ghosted to the cave's entrance, peeked out. Yep, the Atronach was still chilling. I gripped my dagger, scanned for weak points, probably aimed for the core, then plot twist it, waved. Just waved. I blinked. You're not going to attack me? It shook its head, then held out a hand. What even is this quest line? I'd already absorbed every last glyph from the catalog of enchantment skill points banked, mind sharpened Edso. I cracked open the bonus book I'd almost ignored. Its title clicked like a lock. Pelse Gahrod Zul, or Writings of Stolen Voice. Fitting, since the damn thing spoke in a hijacked tongue. The carriage hit another bump-teeth clenched spine giardia, not the carriage's fault. These roads were coded by sadists. The first half of the book, pure translation grind. Letters, syntax, vocab, standard stuff. But the second half, pure chaos. One word looped like a broken spell. Syllabus, no translation. I dissected it. Sil meant heart, Lavas meant music, but together, gibberish. Except every time Syllabus showed up, it dragged La behind it the dragon word for magic. That was the only tether I had. I rubbed my chin, decoding silence itself, wondering if the book was teaching me or listening back. I had already maxed out the catalog of enchantments, cashed in the skill points, and turned my attention to the bonus book Pelse Gahrod Zul, Writings of Stolen Voice, which tracked since it felt like decoding a language ripped from existence. The carriage jolted again. Not its fault, the roads were trash. First half of the book, straightforward and encrypted lexicon of lost syllables and phonetic ghosts. Second half, utter chaos. A strange word kept surfacing, syllabus. No translation, no logic. Sil meant heart. Lavas meant music. Together, gibberish, unless you counted the fact it always whispered just before La, the dragon word for magic. A wordless song triggering power. I rubbed my chin, eyes narrowing. This book wasn't just forgotten knowledge, it was a fuse. It couldn't be Heart Music Magic 2 sentimental. No. This had to be some advanced linguistic artifact. A word never meant for dragon tongues. Just like Jorza Frol. Mortal, finite, temporary concepts, foreign to dragons but intrinsic to man. So maybe Syllabus was another alien echo, a fracture in the language code. My mind gnawed on the puzzle until the carriage jolted, shaking the thoughts loose. Bumps followed like bad punctuation in a corrupted script. The driver yelled through the clatter, "Apologies! Helgen's ruins wrecked the road. Would have taken the west to Falkreath, but the Forsworn have claimed it lately. Markarth does nothing." I sighed, the simulation humming in my skull like static. "Are we passing through Helgen?" I asked, though I already knew we were headed straight into the glitch. Falkreath might not be a giant on the map, but trust me, it stretches twice as far as Solitude when you're walking blind. Thank the void for those little shop signs, or I'd have vanished into the mist. The jail? The Jarl's fancy house? Obvious. The rest? A maze. I wasn't here to sightsee, though. I had questions like whether any other players had wandered through this coded backwater. Maybe they were after the Brotherhood. Maybe they used the password and got deleted for their troubles. Unless it was lore deep in their backstory, of course, then maybe. I needed proof. So I pinged the local smith. "Is Lot around?" And got a voice around the corner. "Why you looking for me?" I played it cool. "You send anyone off with meat lately? Like hunting dogs, maybe?" A beat passed. "Yeah, someone came. Said it sounded like a mess, not worth chasing." "Bingo. Someone had definitely passed through. I tilted my angle. Did they seem off? Jail stalking? Whispering brotherhood nonsense? Now it was my turn to pause. If they're poking around Falkreath's darker shadows, then I've got more than just a breadcrumb. I've got a breadcrumb trail dipped in poison. Falkreath wasn't massive like Solitude, but somehow still managed to twist space like a poorly loaded mod. The buildings doubled in size but tripled in confusion. If not for those trusty signs marking where to sleep or shop, I'd still be spinning in circles. The jail loomed like an obvious trap, and the Jarl's Manor felt more like a checkpoint than a throne. I had plans here, a silent, strategic ones. First, figure out if another player passed through. Odds were slim. This place practically screamed Dark Brotherhood side quest. But walking around saying the password? Instant permadeath, unless, maybe, someone baked it into their backstory. My test? Barbas. I strolled to the forge. Is Lot around? He peeked out like I just tripped an event trigger. Why? I scratched my neck, choosing my dialogue option carefully. Did you already ask someone to find that dog? Maybe gave him meat? He hesitated. Yeah, but they said it might be too much trouble. So, someone had come through. I narrowed it down. Were they snooping? Jail? Brotherhood chatter? No answer. Just the weight of another ghost in the machine. Lod's eyes popped wide. Are you? But I cut in, hand out like a polite Froststorm. Vec Frostwain, bounty hunter, I'm tracking someone. Extremely unstable. Know where he went? Lod blinked, scratched his beard like gold was slipping through his fingers. Helgen, I think. Might have hit the jailhouse, but you'd need to check. I gave him the kind of nod that said you're only half wrong, then turned heel toward the barracks. One guard spotted me mid-step. Whoa, there! What's your business? I shrugged like secrets were yesterday's bugs. I'm here to talk to Sinding. Permission? He sighed like he'd heard that one too many simulation cycles. Another interrogation, huh? He escaped, of course he did, thanks to some rambly Redguard drifter muttering about caves near Helgen. I clicked my tongue, already calculating the odds. Barbas, the cursed Hircine ring, and now Hamar's shame? Predictable. I moved. The cave was a death gallery, bodies everywhere, loot barely worth the blood, potions, gold, arrows. Vampires didn't carry much, but I knew better than to overlook dust, especially if it turned me invisible, even if just for a blink. Disgusting? Sure. Worth it? Always. I started bagging vampire dust while scanning the corridor. A table. A book barrow's speech. Skill boost. Destruction magic. Not a game changer, but noted. Then I kept moving. Shadows clinging like allies. I clicked my tongue so the Redguard dragged Barbas and that cursed ring toward Helgen, muttering about some cave. Hamar's shame. Great. I headed out, expecting answers. Instead, I found corpses. Lots of them. Vampires, unlucky fools, maybe even dinner leftovers. I looted what I could potions, arrows, gold, but nothing impressive. Then came the real prize, vampire dust. Disgusting? Yes. Useful? Also yes. Raw. It would grant me a moment's invisibility if I could stomach it. I started collecting. Further in, I spotted a table and picked up Barrow's speech a skill book for destruction magic. Nice boost, not that it meant much. Still, it was one more step on the path. He barely dodged my swing, crashing onto his back like a rag doll, glitching mid-animation. Whoa man, we can talk about this, he yelped, scrambling. My axe came down in reply no lag. No mercy. We both know why we're here. He tumbled out of the way, clearly specced into acrobatics. Tried a punch, but I ghosted back. Look, we can work together, Sherith. I went low with the axe. He jumped like a modded NPC on caffeine. Clavicus doesn't care, Barbas doesn't care, only the mission matters. He pulled a dagger, growling. Fine, you want to fight, he lunged. I dropped the axe, pulled the catalog of enchantments, and threw it in his face. Critical hit, shame. As he reeled, I stepped around, reclaimed the axe, and brought it down caught his side. He rolled up, staggered, eyes wide. What skill trees did you go? I gave him a crooked smile. Just a little speechcraft. He rolled his eyes, then snapped a red flask from thin air a health potion. No doubt looted off some bloodsuckers. I lunged, but with nothing blocking his view, he danced out of reach. Definitely dumped points into acrobatics. Judging by how those vamps were taken out, stealth was his opener. That leaves one-handed for his finishers, so Wade's got speed, not power. While he's busy patching himself up, I lace the rueful axe with venom. He stops bleeding. What? Downed 3 already? How many more you got? He looks past me, cocky. That's the only hit you're landing. That axe? Swings slower than a frostbit great hammer. Say goodnight. He charged not at me, but through my eyes locked on a sword lying near the corpses of fallen vampires. I slammed the axe down, drew my dagger, and drove it deep into his shoulder. He grunted, stumbled, but didn't stop. That's when I saw Ith wasn't after me. He was after that sword. I grabbed the cursed axe, hurled it mid-swing. It flew. He gasped as his fingers touched the blade, but his arm hit the ground before he could lift it. I snatched the weapon, and before he could scream again, sliced clean across his throat. Silence. Until Barbas broke it, wide-eyed. Now that was wild. Are you some kind of conjurer? That axe just poof in the air. Clavicus cackled behind him. Another deal done. He even fetched the axe I was about to send him for. Or should I say, he got an arm and a half out of it. Ha ha ha! Welcome to the club, new guy. Thank goodness you showed up now. Do me a favor and chop that mutt, will you? I mean, what's loyalty compared to a fancy axe? I sighed, hefted the so-called mighty weapon, and rolled my eyes. No thanks. That thing's a glorified butter knife heavy, clunky, and about as elegant as a cave troll on skooma. Funny thing is, I wasn't even aiming for his arm back there, but hey, lucky me. Barbas patted over, wagging his tail like none of this had just happened. Appreciate the delivery? He said. Now Clavicus has to play nice, unless of course you leave Skyrim. I nodded, already knowing my wish. Clavicus tried to fake cry, oozing drama. Boring. Can't I tempt you with treasure, temptresses, or a taste of eternal life? I tilted my head. Pass. Gold stolen, your women are monsters, and I'd rather be a werewolf than a leech. What I want, it's none of those things. Clavicus Vile blinked in disbelief while Barbas burst out laughing, clearly enjoying the show. Nailed it, kid. Just say the word, I'll wrangle the old puffball into handing it over. I didn't miss a beat. I want the mask of Clavicus Vile circlet style. I'm not about to slap a puberty-born goblin mask over this masterpiece. Vile scoffed. You really want that rusty relic? After that brawl with the other mortal? That's the prize? I gave him the nod again. Yes, circlet. I'd rather not look like a Daedric-themed Halloween reject. Barbas snorted. Might want to ease off mocking princes. They don't forget. I waved it off. You'll keep him civilized, Barbas. Besides, Vile's charm is half his deal-making appeal. Strip that away and he's just another sulking god with no customers. Vile muttered, fine, whatever. Barbas, get over here. I'd had enough of this glitch-ridden cave and shouted it into the void seconds before Barbas vanished into a rift with a smug farewell and a weirdly pointed comment about my name. Wait, how did he know my name? No time to spiral. Another rift opened, spitting out a black circlet with jutting horns. It pulsed with possibility, like a living question mark. The mask of Clavicus Vile, I realized, wasn't really a shape so much as it was what could be shaped. Lore said it was formless, and here, in this twisted mirror world, that meant anything could be bent. I turned to the still warm corpse of another player. Their body glowed faintly, yellow, lootable. One touch, and a UI screen opened. Inventory. Junk, mostly, except a cursed version of Hircine's ring, and no way that was Baldur's lucky dagger. I pocketed both. Curse or not, it was better than the rusty toothpick I'd been pretending was a weapon. I took the gold from his stiff corpse, 2,000 septims, a jackpot by my dwindling standards. Golden at Morris weren't cutting it anymore. As I closed his inventory, a screen jumped out at me like a banshee scream, coded in terror, sent me flailing backwards. It read like an obituary written by the simulation itself. Here lies Morth Slybreath, Red Guard of Shadowed Skill and Limber Defiance. Acrobatics, stealth, one-handed combat was a blur, a phantom. Gifted with danger sense, cursed with slow reflexes. He fled exile, chased ghosts of friendship into the frostbitten jaws of Falkreath, where dogs and blood trails marked his only leads. His story? Sparse. His fate? Digital silence, and me? Still staring. Still falling. He died like a discarded variable in someone else's subroute Nino. Glory, no closure, just code collapse in place of the mongrel Barbas. His essence stitched into mine now. His boons, his buffs, his weird little spell quirks all mine. Lucky me. Or maybe cursed. Maybe I'll glitch out the same way. Maybe I'll stumble on another ghost in the code like Morth Slybreath and realize we're just echoes. I felt it then wait. Pressure, danger coded into every player encounter. No gear, no chance. That win? Carried hard by the Amur native passive. Gave me a tilt in stats, but if someone with higher level aggroed, game over. I evased Hamar's shame like it was ticking. Next on the quest line, Hircine. I needed the ring. I needed power, all of it, every exploit, every buff, every edge to stay alive in this spaghetti loop sandbox. But before that, wait, 2 level ups. Jackpot. First stop, Azura's Star. Then we see who really breaks first me. Or the game. I needed rest. No detours, no distractions. Helgen was close enough to vanish into for the night. Falkreath was pointless, too exposed. I dragged myself out of the cave, every step heavier than the last, and by the time I stumbled through Helgen's crumbled gates, darkness had claimed the sky again. I found an abandoned house, something halfway between ruins and memory, and tucked myself behind collapsed stone in the watchtower. Sleep? Optional. Paranoia? Inevitable. Then I remembered the alarm spell. One thought, my hand flared. Green light wrapped around me like a digital cocoon. Safe, for now. No mana drain, no surprises. As stars flickered above the shattered realm, my body gave in, but my mind stayed caught, panic, echoing in silence. When I slipped into the dream space, something was off. Familiar, but rewritten. Resource points lit up like a debug screen. I dumped them all into mana. Priorities, 130. Not bad. I could work with this. 14 perk points. Not bad for a glitch-born strategist. 9 ripped from another player's skeleton tree, his choices undone. Now mine to reforge. 2 from his level grinds, 3 from my own climb through the corrupted code. Alteration? Locked down tighter than a dev console. Fine. Speechcraft and stealth open like back doors. I fed 2 points into one-handed and archery proficiency baseline upgrades for future cuts. Armsman and marksman checked, down to 8. Speechcraft's my ace, so I funneled 2 into persuasion, max for now, but it cracked open allure and kinship. I eyed kinship more influence over the Nord codebase? Yes, please. 1 perk slipped in like a whisper. 7 points remain, and already the system bends toward my will. Only 5 perks left, each one a critical blade in my silent arsenal. Stealth was no longer optional, it was the core of Phase 2. I dumped everything into the stealth tree, maxed the basics, sharpened sneak attacks until they whispered death. That done, I turned inward to defense. Alteration magic, once an expensive luxury, became a survival instinct. Casting while awake drained me dry, but asleep? Free. Exploitable. I approached the rune screen beside the doorway, filtering spells by school. Divergence first test case. Candlelight. The result? Mage light. Functional. I fused it with alert new construct. Dark vision. Useful. Adaptive. Divergence worked by mutating parallels. But it wasn't infinite. I couldn't force stone flesh from oak flesh. The rules bent, but never broke. Not yet. As soon as I touched the next idea, it sparked a new spell. Reinforcement. Instantly, my body surged with raw power, like someone turned gravity off just for me. I didn't stop there. I jammed that spell into Splinter and got another one. Harvest. Looted everything off anything. Problem? It looted everything, skin, bone, even the stuff I wasn't supposed to touch. Still, rare materials? Worth the risk. My mana? Nearly dust. But I had one more idea. I threw Spell Lock into Harvest, aiming for a simple unlock. And the spell I got? Banished Remora. Yeah, that happened. Turns out, Fusion doesn't care about schools of magic. That opened new doors. Grant Frost resistance, adversity, senior discount. Each one apprentice tier or higher. And with that, a sharper thought formed, what if this wasn't about casting stronger spells, but about bending the rules of magic itself? I couldn't craft even a novice tier spell. Somehow the senior discount cost less than Oak Flesh, which was flagged as apprentice level. Rubbing my chin, I clicked Adversity and fused it with Equilibrium Mode Burn Stamina to restore both mana and health. The other traded health for mana. Curious what kind of paradox I just coded, I hit Confirm. New spell created Libra flashed before I could examine it, but the dreamscape cracked open like a glitch in the Matrix and hurled me back into consciousness. I sat up, groaning so dream mana wasn't infinite after all, just hidden behind some invisible cap. Intrigued, I searched for my new spell knot under Alteration or Restoration, but nestled inside the destruction tree like a wolf in priest's robes. Whatever Libra was, it wasn't healing anymore. It was something else entirely. Your writing fits seamlessly into the dark, glitch-riddled tone of the Vec Frostwane Legacy Protocol saga. The gritty internal logic where magic mutates, systems lie, and power is layered like Bad Cody's spot on for Vec's twisted journey through Elder Scrolls 8. Open beta. Let's unpack how your excerpt plays with that world. Lore and mechanics tie-in. Passive effects screen. No numbers, no percentages, just cryptic hints. This aligns perfectly with Protocol, Legacy, and its resistance to player understanding. It echoes the Phantom Threads chapter, where AI bleed-throughs create ambiguous gameplay. Ancient Race plus Senior Discount. That kind of ironic spell synergy is classic glitch logic, something Vec would both mock and exploit. It also plays well into the Patchwork Soul and Frozen Quill chapters, where quest mechanics and abilities bend or break. Shuffle the deck, swap spells, and still keep the aces. That echoes the Mirror Sigil item from the TOC Vec's ability to juggle divergent paths without consequence. For now. Alteration magic with newcomers, for example, Splinter, Alarm, Lock. That's prime fracture of the fifth law material unpredictable magic, dev introduced or legacy coded, seeping into regular spell trees. Binary 3 steps, 1 cursed ring, and a ticking clock. That was all I had. I could almost hear her scene growling through the code, demanding tribute before the week ran out and the curse took hold. But appeasing him wasn't my only agenda. I needed Azura's star too, buried under layers of corrupted scripting and forgotten Daedric routines. Supplies were low. I'd need a bedroll, food, and maybe a pickaxe if things got rocky. Armor? Trash tier. Weapons? Laughable. The mines across Skyrim became my detour, all while my internal quest log screamed about Arkantam's a crumbling Dwemer death trap that may or may not implode if I blink wrong. My timeline was fractured, the world glitching at the seams, and every delay felt like another thread unraveling. I had to move fast, outwit the system, and stop panicking before the simulation collapsed. Or I did. I walked into the dead man's drink with the calm of a main character and the paranoia of someone who read too many patch notes. Plan, soothe me order is my sedative, and that tavern was the next step. The innkeeper smiled, probably named Valga, though I wasn't in the mood to confirm it. Howdy, I said, pretending I hadn't just debugged a dream sequence. Meal? Also, sleeping bags? I'm prepping for travel. She scammed me like I was a glitched asset. Meals, sure. Sleeping bags? Try the general store. I've got jerky, cheese, some meat adventurer fuel. I'd drop my half stack of septums like I was investing in uncertainty. Whatever this buys, plus the cheapest meal on the menu. She looked down, then back at the blade on my belt. Valdur's dagger? I pulled it slow, cautious. Yeah, about that. Has Baldur been around? Her face clouded. Sorry. Great. More broken flags. Why are you asking? Of course, it wouldn't be surprising if the guy offed Valdru needs to fight a horde of forest death when stabbing one weird loner does the trick. I spun a story, cool and calm. You might want to send someone to Moss Mother Cavern. Got this dagger off a man I killed near Helgen. I think Valdur's gone. Spriggans, maybe, or that guy. A complete lie, sure, but stacked on my other lies, it fit the narrative too well. Valga didn't flinch. Redguard? She guessed. So she knew. I nodded, raising a brow. How'd you know? She shrugged like it was obvious. Guy was strange. Muttered nonsense, stared into walls, trashed one of my rooms. I almost kicked him out. Creepy guests and missing hunters, just another bug in the simulation. I gave her a nod. She had my attention now. But why would he be searching one of the rooms? My eyes narrowed. No way he thought that. I turned to Valga, cool and direct. You got a book on the bitter cup or something like it? She scratched her head like the thought barely sparked. Oh, hold on. I'll grab your food too. She disappeared and I exhaled hard. Morth was digging for some hidden DLC stuff. Creation Club nonsense and on. Canon fluff. But if a dying wish was what he hunted, that quest sent you to some roadside ruins to fill one of 3 cursed bowls. The prize? The bitter cup and some random loot. Problem was, if that content counted as real here, then I wasn't the expert anymore. She returned, cheerful and unaware. Hair salted chicken, and that book you asked for. I gave her a nod, a smirk tugging at my lips. Thanks. The book she handed over? Not what I expected. But it pulsed with relevance. Threads connecting across the simulation. I flipped through it, chewing on cold poultry and warmer theories. When the last page turned, the system blinked. A new quest activated off-map, outside Skyrim. A crack in the playable wall. Creation Club content? If it bent lore but didn't snap canon, it counted. Meaning Umbra wasn't just a myth it was locatable if you were willing to leave the sandbox. This wasn't just Skyrim anymore, it was Nirn Unshackled. I shut the book. If he read this too, he'd know. The chicken disappeared in 3 bites. Valga slid my travel kit over without a word. Jerky, cheese, mead, just as coded. I gave a lazy salute and turned for the general store, lighter in steps and burden, with the glitch trail of possibility behind me. I had never stepped into that dusty excuse of a general store before, why would I? It was the kind of place that smelled like regret and bad quests. But there I was, asking for a sleeping bag, a pickaxe, and some torches, like I actually planned on camping instead of incinerating cave goblins. Got oil? I tossed in. The shopkeeper, who I swear spawned straight from the default NPC template, nodded like I just asked if the sky was up. Easy burn or long lasting, he grunted. Oh good. Options, I picked the flammable kind, because nothing says tactical like solving problems with fire and smoke from a safe distance. As he gathered the loot, I added, got any rope? 5 braid. He rummaged around like it was a fetch quest. 4 braid and 6 braid. Not this math. Can 4 braid hold a person's weight, I asked? He shrugged, real helpful. Holds a log. Perfect. I was now betting my life on forestry comparisons. The mills ran on 4 braid nothing fancy, just raw rope and muscle to haul the logs like veins through Falkreath's wooden heart. I scratched my beard, muttered, "Sure, 4 braid," and tossed a bundle onto the pile. The shopkeep smirked. "That's 830 septums." I counted out the coins, flicked them over. "Keep the change." He gave a nod. A half-smile transaction complete. Most of the gear slipped neatly into my inventory, except the sleeping bag. That beast had to ride shotgun on my back. Next waypoint. Island Alta's Deep. Time to retrieve the Azure Star. After that, ice and altitude. With rope and pickaxe in hand, scaling the mountain was the logical call, better odds than trusting my grip alone. Behind Island Alta's Deep, Bloated Man's Grotto waited, Sinding's escape hole. From there, it'd be footwork either toward Whiterun for a carriage run to Solitude or hoofing it through Morthal. Hidden Instincts wasn't going to trigger itself. I shook my head no rush on the quest timer. If I played it right, I could dive through Island Alta's Deep, snag Malin's corpse, and cure the cursed ring all in a single day. Easy enough, since I didn't need to purge the whole dungeon, just the main hall. Sinding was the trickier bit. I'd have to convince the poor soul I wasn't his enemy, and then flip the hunt by erasing every last one of Hircine's minions. Pulled open my map like a gambler, staring down Fate Lake, Mountain Morthal. Not a fun path, but maybe. Maybe a detour past the Sleeping Tree camp? That weird tree pulsed like a sleeping hist, and if I hit the river road from there, I might just bypass the worst of Ite, assuming no dragon ambushes. Cold Rock Pass loomed as an alternative, but my gut told me it hid Quicksilver, and I needed it alongside Ebony and Stalrim, though that last one wasn't even native to Skyrim. Ebony, though? Tucked near Windhelm and Riften. Just needed the time, and no more surprises. I wanted Ebony, but Silver would have to dough cheap, easy, just needed some Quicksilver for links. Problem? I'd still need coin, which meant a pit stop at the festering glitch called Morthal. That place? Bottom tier spawn zone. Even Falkreath had more life. I mapped my route, clean and fast, no interruptions. Time to move. Never tried a run like this before, but hey, no save, no fear. Then came Island Alta's Deep. Easy to reach, not so easy to endure. I swam the whole cursed lake because logic is for quitters. Nearly froze, huddled by flames, but the grind paid if acrobatics up by 3. Totally worth the hypothermia. High-speed acrobatics shaved off travel time, sure, but diving straight through the lake still ate up half the day, and now I was drenched, staring up at a cursed mountain with 0 patience left. Good news? My frost resistance was doing overtime. I wasn't even cold. Inside Island Alta's Deep, realism was a joke. I could stack clothes like a walking wardrobe if I wanted. Just trade mobility for fashion points. I kicked open the trap door, water dripping off me like some soggy action hero, only to be greeted by the skeletal remains of a fisherman. Great welcome. Voices echoed through the flooded hall as I crept past, mind already mapping the upper floors. First door, barred, just as I remembered. Second one, led straight into the deluge because of course this dungeon had a poetic name for its waterlogged nightmare zone. The corridor narrowed into a broken chamber, just wide enough for 2 nervous necromancers whispering over a bloodstained scroll rookies. Clearly. I knocked an arrow, loosed it into the wall right between them. Instant chaos. "What the hell?" they shrieked. I sighed. Figures. No point hiding now. I surged forward, boots silent, dagger drawn leapt onto the first and drove cold steel into his neck. The second froze, wide-eyed, reeking of panic. I snatched his arm, spun, and slammed him into the table, followed with another clean stab. Fear works better than spells. I glanced at the book they were guarding, Doors of Oblivion. Conjuration. Useless to me. I had scrolls, coin, and no interest in joining the hated cult of bone summoners. Blood smeared the pages. Typical. They weren't hiding in Winterhold for a reason. This place was a mess of broken code and black market necromancy. I scavenged a few glitchy healing potions, nothing fancy, then crept onward. Found one of the jailhouse janitors, scrubbing blood off old cell bars. My first arrow punched his stomach like a debug. Spike he dropped, howling something about justice and revenge, hands glowing with hostile code. Another shot fried his spell circuit. The next one, straight through the head. Silence. Guilt tickled, but I swallowed it still, one more anomaly lurking. A sealed door creaked open to reveal a stairwell, each step humming with corrupted pathing. Up top, I spotted him. Last necromancer. Deep in his little science project, maybe an autopsy, maybe just ritual madness. Didn't care. He was back, turned, totally absorbed. I slid past him like a ghost through unfinished code, climbing the stairs without a sound. No door. Just stairs, silence, and that throne like a death trap set on display. The corpse slouched there had long since surrendered to time. Little more than bone and dust in royal decay. I didn't flinch. That must have been Malin, or what was left of him. Beside him, his grotesque grimoire stitched from something that should have never been bound. I slipped it into my inventory, stomach already twisting. The plan? Skim it while heading toward Morthal, then torch the thing before it decides to whisper anything back. But the real star of the show? Azura's shattered relic. Broken. Buzzing with uninvited whispers. I scooped it all up scraps, shards, secret sand, climbed out using a ladder hidden beside the throne. The air outside hit me like a reset. Less damp, more real. I opened my map. Mission still intact. Star can wait. Mountains don't. I pulled out my pickaxe and rope. Eyes set on the horizon. I spotted the ledge that would lead me to Bloated Man's grotto. Time to climb. The ascent was tougher than I thought, but strangely satisfying. My arms burned, but the view from the summit made it worth it. The grotto stretched below open-roofed, unlike the old game. I could see everything. No hunters in sight yet. The descent was trickier. From above, the cave looked more like a basin carved into the earth. I couldn't spot Sinding at first, but then he appeared human again gathering firewood. Quiet, careful. I set up my own camp nearby, hidden, watching. He didn't do much, just preparing his space, maybe trying to feel human again. Then it happened. An arrow cut through the night and struck his leg. I saw them before he did too, Khajiit emerging from the shadows of the entrance. Sinding growled. The instant that arrow Hyda's form twisted mid-snarl, the sound of it shaking the cavern from floor to ceiling. Still, the two zealots of Hircine approached, full of divine bravado. Admirable? Maybe. Smart? Absolutely not. Sinding reduced them to ribbons before they even screamed, though the poison in that shot clearly took a toll. His breath dragged like winter wind through pine. I watched from above as more pawns closed in, and Sinding limped deeper into the grotto's shadows. I called out. He paused, beastly eyes locking onto mine. Who are you? Hircine's latest errand? He rasped, teeth still stained. I cut him off. Number, I'm the guy with your cursed ring got it after offing the fool you passed it to. I flashed the ring like a badge, and in his stare I saw understanding, then doubt. Relax, I added. He bargained with Daedra like a fool. I don't serve anyone. Sinding froze like a bad frame drop, clearly parsing the meaning behind my Daedra comment. So you're here to mess up Hircine's hunt? For me? I gave the nod classic silent protagonist move. Might even earn me a patch for this curse. He glanced toward the grotto's edge like he expected a quest marker to appear. You coming down or what? I raised an eyebrow. Only if you promise not to turn me into jerky. He huffed through that shaggy wolf snout. Nah, I just want peace. If you're offering help, I'll take it. Simple. Too simple. I slammed my pickaxe in, tied off the rope, gave it a test tug, and dropped like I had max acrobatics. Landed smooth. Cast harvest. Hands glowed, inventory pinged, rope and pickaxe vanished into system memory. Sinding blinked. Where'd the rope go? Poor guy hadn't seen hotbar magic before. I smirked. Magic. Here, take this. I tossed the crimson vial, and his claw snatched it mid-air with a grunt of thanks. No time to chat. I was already pouring oil in a slow arc across the ground. Traps? He asked. I didn't stop. Vec Frostwane. Freelancer. That just confused him more. I crushed stones in my hand with a whisper of splinter, and they erupted into jagged caltrops perfect. I scattered them with precision over the slick ground. He leaned in, frowning. Vicious. I smirked. Not really. Fire clears the oil. Only the brainless step into the spikes. His eyes narrowed. Caltrops? Right. Guess those aren't exactly standard in this broken mirror world. I didn't bother replying, still too much to do. I weighed the idea of using alert or dark vision, but doubted either would cut it. I glanced over. Checked the rest of this place yet? Sinding blinked, clueless. Not really. I smirked. Perfect. I slipped deeper into Bloated Man's grotto, eyes scanning every corrupted texture. There it was, Bowler's Oathblade, pulsing with fear, enchantment, ready to drain stamina like a virus. Beside it, Jack put a chest stuffed with gold, gems, scrolls, the usual loot salad. I vacuumed it all into my inventory, then latched onto the chest and started dragging it back. Sinding, bless his glitched AI heart, pitched in. What are you gonna do with this? I gave a lazy shrug. Trap it. His pitch black eyes flicker ban emotion protocol firing wrong. You're very serious. I cocked a brow. Serious? Nah, I just prefer maximum efficiency. The moment the chest locked into place, I slipped behind it muttering, now we wait. Somewhere open, but not dumb. Sinding just nodded and called me strange. I didn't argue. As he took his spot, dusk melted into crimson moonlight. The grotto pulsed with it, unnatural and heavy. Then came the Rithhooves pounding, wolves crying in the void. The hunt is on, Sinding whispered, voice low. Hircine calls. I rifled through scrolls hoping for a summon or a Frenzinope, firebolt and soul trap. Useful? Barely. I sighed, eyes glowing with frustration and magic as I ripped the scroll like wrapping paper from a cursed gift. My hand caught fire, crackling with arcane force. So this was the plan. Ready or not, I just lit the fuse. The other scroll? Just a cursed soul trap, no help. All hiss. Hooves thundered in, hunters storming the grotto like it was payday. One guy with a great sword charged right past me, I let him. Then came a shield maiden, eyes locked forward. But Sinding? Hiding in the trees, quiet as breath. When a wood elf grinned at the sight of the chest, I waited. He popped it open, boomy firebolt, lit the oil like a festival gone wrong. It's a traw, he managed, before I yanked him into the chest like bedtime gone sideways. Slam. Lock. Green flash. Chaos. Hunters rolled through fire, others diving for the pond, but Sinding pounced like rage incarnate. Blood painted the stones. My stomach flipped. Then, watch out. I looked up, and Greatsword Guy was charging straight at me. I slipped beneath his swing, my blade humming with code-bound dread as it pierced his gut bowler's oath blade, screamed through him, and his eyes flashed white like glitched-out shaders. Terror froze him in place, not fear to flee, but fear that stunned like a debug lock. I'd seen it at Ilanalta's. Deep this was no coincidence. The sword didn't scare you off, it made you feel your own end. Leather armor? Useless note to self. Enchantments laugh at aesthetics. I tore through him and turned just in time for Sinding to raise an eyebrow. You good? He asked. I tossed a thumbs up, scanning the chaos. Damn, I muttered, as scorched bodies and twitching limbs glimmered in the dying fire. Sinding gave a wolfish grin. Your fire trick worked. Most bolted into the lake or shredded themselves on Caltrop's cleanup was easy. Flames still licked the edges of reality, sputtering out like a fading script. He looked over again. The ring? I blinked, gears shifting. Oh, not yet. I've got to speak to Hircine one last time. You could still hear the hoofbeats echoing like glitch echoes in the code. Sinding turned to me, eyes twitching with a flicker of confused realism. I can still hear them too, actually. I squinted at the chest like it just blinked. Yeah, I don't think it's hoofbeats, actually. Then he got it. The realization hit him like a surprise patch note. Oh, wow. Right then, a white stag strutted in like he owned the instance. Color me impressed, it declared, voice laced with myth-tier sarcasm. You didn't just hijack my hunt, you rewrote it. No mortal or monsters ever hacked my expectations like that. It sniffed the chest, then tapped its hoof with godlike flair. The Daedric presence shimmered in the form of a stag, hooves tapping like punctuation on fate's sentence. Truly impressive, it said with a voice that echoed beyond sound. If you were mine, I'd be pleased. A shame. May we meet again, Vec Frostwain. At Mora remains a favorite hunt. Then came the shift the light behind. Its eyes dimmed, and with a haunted bleat, it bolted into the void, spooked not just by Sinding, but by me. I turned, met the werewolf's eyes, and felt the weight of the ring in my hand. Sinding, no longer snarling, spoke with quiet resignation. I thought this would be the end. Even when I passed that cursed band to the Morthfool, I knew the hunt would find me. I was ready to die, but you, if you ever call, I'll answer. I shrugged, gaze cold. I just wanted to fix the ring. His laugh came out like a growl, but it carried something strange. Relief. Even still, I would be happy to help. Just nothing that involves a Daedra. He meant it as a joke, but the weight in his eyes said otherwise. I asked, what will you do now? He let out a breath, haunted. Atone. I killed a little girl when I had the ring, so I'll stay here and atone. I gave a quiet nod. I hope you find peace then. He smiled, a crooked, canine grin. Good luck, friend. I left the cave in silence, fingering Hircine's ring. Atonement wasn't my path. I wasn't built for penance. I could only offer him a moment of respect, nothing more. The night had swallowed the road ahead, but the sleeping tree stood close. Darkness suited me just fine. I kept walking, the cursed ring cold on my hand. I flipped back through my journal, and there it was, a new tab, pulsing with secrets waiting to be triggered. One line stood out like a slap from the void. Achievement unlocked. Shocked a Daedric prince. That alone cracked open a hidden layer. Achievements split into 3 ominous veins. Basic, unique, and those that could change fate itself. I stared at the ring again. It hummed with power, confirming what I suspected. It granted me a single, cost-free werewolf transformation. But that was just the bait. The true gift was Hircine's menagerie, permission slipped to morph into any beast from Hircine's twisted zoo. Werebear, behemoth, hybrid terror. I now held every form in my blood. And then came Hircine's Saprazia buff that hit harder against anything under the huntsman's influence, including myself, as long as the ring stayed on. A gift, a curse, a gambland I was already too deep not to play. If I wanted to reach the sleeping tree, nothing could have stopped me. I had time, opportunity, and just enough recklessness. I wasn't aiming for a head-on brawl, just a stealthy infiltration of the camp. That was before the behemoth form crossed my mind. Normal werewolves? Toast against giants. But this was something else. I slipped on the ring. Light poured from nowhere, from the moon in agony wrapped around me like a cloak. My skin burned and froze, claws split through my fingers, the sky shimmered crimson, and I wasn't me anymore. I forgot the downside, of course. There's always a downside. The rest? A kaleidoscope of chaos. I was running, laughing, killing. An elk tried to flee. I caught it mid-thought. Stopped to loot, I think. Can't remember. Don't care. As I broke into a sprint, the wet slap of something on my face barely registered before the world shifted again. The first giant came into view, lumbering like a puppet on broken strings, and I pounced without thinking. For a second, he looked small. Or was I just growing? I blinked. Nope. Same size. My ears twitched. Was that tremors? Two mammoths thundered past, majestic and panicked, until they weren't. Dead. No warning, no logic. A whisper of a second later, I turned to where a tree loomed, guarding a cave like it held secrets it didn't want found. Inside, another giant, sipping casually. Not for long, I tore out its throat like flipping a corrupted variable. A flicker, and an orc's body was there. Note clutched in hand. I hesitated. Then apparently ate him. Reality blurred. Again, I tightened a ring-bad idea. My form shimmered. Inventory? Locked. Fine. I'd lug the chest myself. It looked small. Manageable. Out of the cave I went, the weight dragging me down while my eyes locked on the tree ahead. A hist? Maybe. Or maybe not. My thoughts tangled like bad code. It didn't feel normal. Baby tree? Glitched remnant? Umbriel theory? Nothing fit. I stumbled closer. Vision blurred. Then blink. Gone was the tree, the camp, everything. I was in Morthal, I think? Still beast-shaped. Chest still stuck to my spine. Mind soaked in static. I stood under the moonlight, heavy, confused, broken. Something had shifted, but was it me or the world? It was descending fast. I had to move. The mountain loomed ahead, close enough to touch, but just as I sprinted forward, the world snapped sideways, vision fracturing like broken glass. Next thing I know, bam, I jolt awake. Last memory? Sleeping tree camp. Ring still on my finger. No dream, no whispers, nothing. Wait, werewolves don't sleep like normal people. Then wham. A voice in my head like static with sass. No kidding. Monsters under moonlight, remember? I spin, ready for combat, but no one's there. Then my jaw drops. The sleeping tree? It's sideways. Roots like a corpse's fingers clawed across the dirt. What the hell happened last night? WTF? I yell, and that same voice snorts. Exactly. Try waking up mid-rip when a hairy nightmare pulls you from the earth and hauls you off like a plush toy. So the tree was talking great, just what I needed. A hiss no less, with all the sarcasm of a drunk oracle. Wait, how are you talking to me? I asked, instantly regretting it. The tree practically smirked through the ether. Maybe it's the sap you chugged like a lunatic, remember that? You tore through a crate of the stuff, mumbling like a banshee. I didn't remember. Not really. But I did know I'd somehow wandered into Cold Rock Pass, reeking of troll, blood, and shame. Half a troll lay missing. I blinked, and flashes of last night's horror show came back chewed. Up orc, devoured elk, even giants. What was I? A corrupted beast mod. I clutched my gut, trying not to hurl. And then the kicker. I was completely naked. One panicked inventory check later, I found scrap-torn cloth, shredded armor, the ruins of my dignity. Great. At least I didn't feel cold, though marching into Morthal naked wasn't exactly a power move. I could bluff it, claim bandits stole my gear, maybe a guard would toss me a pity cloak. But the damn tree cackled behind me. You look cold. Ha ha, filthy man creature. Was it actually mocking me? No time for existential plant drama. I turned to leave. But of course, it wasn't done. Hey! Hey! Where do you think you're going? It barked. No eyes, yet somehow it saw Mamana? Echo detection? Who knows? I raised my hands. What? Want the filthy human to carry you. Tree wasn't having it. You woke me up, ripped me out of the earth, and now you're ghosting me in this dump cave? Take me with you. I tilted my head, skeptical. Should I care? I turned to leave, but the voice oddly leaf I persisted. I could tell you things. Real secrets, his stuff, ancient culture, exclusive spells. I waved it off. Nah, I'm good. But then it dropped the bait. What if I teach you hist exclusive magic? Stuff we reserve for our inner circle. That stopped me no because I wanted it, but because I didn't trust it. Why me? The tree actually sighed. Buddy, most hist don't move. Literally. I mean, you could count the explorers on one hand, and only one really went Farguy lived on a pirate ship. So yeah, I'm young, kinda stunted, and dying to see the world. Trade! I give secrets, you give me legs. I squinted. This talking plant wanted a field trip. I was gonna need to glue googly eyes on it. Just staring at that whispering tree made me question if I was losing iter, if the ring's side effects were kicking in again. After everything I'd endured across this glitched, freezing wasteland, now I'm psychically chatting with a self-deprecating tree. I asked it why it said it was poorly grown, and the reply came in a frustrated tone. Why do you think I was asleep? I can't even scan your mind, just beam thoughts outward. My first soil barely fed me enough to start. This is all I've got. I nodded. Makes sense, Skyrim's not exactly a garden paradise. But something didn't fit. My eyes narrowed. Aren't you not from here? One of those twisted hissed offshoots from the floating place? It made a sound I couldn't decipher, like digital static choked by roots. Then it resumed, annoyed but resigned. Kind of, it's complicated. And in that glitch-soaked silence, I realized everything here is. The tree hesitated, its voice rich with ancient memory. I dropped from Umbriel long ago, but didn't begin growing until centuries later. Lucky hit, really fell in a spot with just the right magic to wake up. Drained the earth dry doing it though. That stunted left me with only thoughts and echoes from the past. But there's something else, Daedric energy. Not enough to cast spells or rain fire, but like using an artifact, you don't cast with it, you become part of it. It twitched, language flickering, then steadied. Hard to say in your tongue. Think of it like you hold a Daedric relic. Power leaks in. With me, that power rooted instead. I squinted. You mean like photosynthesis? The tree blinked, confused. Define that. I sighed, explaining how plants use sunlight to make food from carbon dioxide and water photosynthesis. The tree chuckled, surprised such a word even existed, amazed I knew about carbon dioxide. I had to admit most people probably didn't. Not really. The tree understood it took necromancers centuries to grasp anatomy. Then it revealed something eerie. In Daedric realms, his trees don't use sunlight, they photosynthesize with Daedric energy, since those realms barely have light. That stopped me. But isn't the sun on Nirn just a hole in Aetherius? I asked. The hist gaspes, then paused. Wait, you're a mage. Of course you'd know that. It's common knowledge among your kind. Bah! We were off script again. Take me with you, it begged, and I sighed because dragging a sentient tree was somehow now part of my cursed life. I yanked it by the branches. It shrieked, by the roots, the roots! So I switched tactics and grabbed lower. Why not shift into that beastly form and carry me like last time? Oh wait, then you'd ignore me again. You didn't even hear my screams when you ripped me out of the ground. I kept pulling. I also can't do that, I muttered. Not just couldn't, wouldn't it? That beast form gave up too much control, and in a place like Morthal, going full beast mode would get me killed in minutes. The tree paused dramatically, bark creaking. Hey, wait! You aren't just gonna, It trailed off, and I didn't answer. Because honestly, I might. I squinted down the jagged slope, muttered, why not, cowabunga, and drop-kicked a whole tree into motion. As it slid, I leapt on like a lunatic lumber surfer, hurtling downhill into chaos. Later, dragging that same tree behind me like a sleepy pet rock, I figured sleeping tree didn't quite cut it, so I asked it straight up. Got a name? Echoes. Nothing. Just a moody voice. No clue. Never named. No caretaker. Just asleep. I paused. All right, how about Aurora? The tree jolted like I'd slapped it. What do you take me for? One of those sparkly female clones of you? Great. I accidentally offended a tree. I yelled, all right, enough. It's a name from a talesome woman stuck in endless slumber, only to get jolted awake like a cursed alarm clock. The tree rustled with a scoff. Fitting, maybe, but I'd rather dodge the gendered drama. You mortals and your weird mating habits. Honestly, it's why the hist ignore you. Most of your kind tries to romance anything with or without a pulse. I groaned, brainstorming, then offered, what about Odine? Sounds slick. Odine leans strong. Odine feels softer. Balance. The tree sighed like creaking wood. Fine. Odine. Sounds like a nymph, though. I shrugged. Just remember the name. That's all I ask. Almost at Morthalgrate, because dragging a half-sentient tree across Skyrim wasn't exactly stealth ops. Before I could mentally brace myself for the inevitable embarrassment, the sap junkie in my head chimes in. Lose the connection, lose the sap. Addictive stuff, by the way. Fixable, but maybe don't spiral into hist withdrawal in front of guards. Right. Totally stable behavior. I keep walking. No time to argue with a botanical voiceover. Then, of course, a guard has the gall to stop me, gawking like I'm leading a circus. I give him the death glare of someone who's had a day. What's it look like? Got robbed. No cart, no clothes, no dignity, just me and my chlorophyll buddy here trying to get through town without snapping. Thought it was hilarious until I realized I was freezing my literal cheeks off. The guard blinked like his brain had lagged, then nodded. Right, makes sense. Wait here while we fetch you some pants. Not many kids in Morthal, but still not zero. I gave him a frosty nod. Cool, now hurry. Understanding doesn't stop hypothermia. One guard bolted off, the other lingered awkwardly. So, about the tree? You were robbed, right? I sighed like I'd heard that line in every patch note. Yeah, it was on a carriage. Now the carriage is a memory leak. And the tree? Let's just say it's both priceless and pointless. Origins, man. Hey, don't insult me, the tree growled. I ignored it. Priorities. Just a tree to them, maybe, but I knew better. That tree was leverage, and leverage meant control. The guard squinted, clearly unsettled. All right. Could you, maybe cover up? I lifted my hands. With what? He flinched, eyes darting away. Never mind. The discomfort worked in my favor. If they were too embarrassed to look, they wouldn't question. Then the other one jogged over, handing me scratchy basic clothes. Here you go. I didn't waste time slipping into the underwear first course, but I've worn worse. Fully dressed and in control, I asked, where can I get a carriage or anything to move that tree? I'm not paying in gold, so I hope there's a creative alternative. The guards gave me that look half warning, half welcome. No carriages in Morthal, they said, but we've got a lumber mill. You'll have to get one built. Then the offer dropped. Help the townsfolk and they'd smooth things over with Gorm. He'd foot the bill if it meant lightening the Jarl's load. I agreed. Naturally, always easier to move forward when the gold isn't yours. I asked where to stash my cargo. The mill wasn't safe. Leave it by the Jarl's home, they said. I pressed for a lead. The second guard still smelling like old wool and duty ticked off the local drama. Benor, a brawler looking for a reason. Falion, the odd mage nobody trusts, and the haunted ruins of Hrogger's place. Ghosts, they said. Classic! I nodded, grabbed the tree, and dragged it like I was being judged. Then, in the quiet, Odin whispered inside my mind, You know, I sense a vampire nearby. I leaned into the shadow of the Jarl's longhouse, whispering, It's her! The vampire pulling the strings, Alva. Odin scoffed. And you know this how? I didn't bother explaining. Logic wasn't her strong suit. I just tilted my head, eyes tracking the frost-choked rooftops of Morthal. Go ahead. If you need help purging the filth, call me. I've got certain talents. While she wandered off, I pulled up my quest log laid to rest active. No need to waste words on the Jarl. The ruins of Hrogger's house loomed like a broken memory. Stepping through the ashes, I whispered, Helgi? A child's voice then spectral echoed back, Are you a stranger? I didn't flinch. I'm a friend. Your father is cursed, trapped under a vampire's spell. I want to break that chain. Will you help me? The ghost flickered into view, voice like static in moonlight. You know about that? She said, eyes scanning something beyond the code. I nodded, of course I knew. I'd been tracking anomalies all day. You can help me then? I asked. She tilted her head like an old glitch rerunning a dead quest. Not really. Not unless you find me after dark. Then she dissolved, like bad data at the edge of a memory leak. I muttered a curse. After dark, my ass. Great. A whole broken cycle to burn before anything useful happens. Guess I'll babysit Morthal's bugs and glitch into a nap at the inn. Hersine's cursed loop ring robbed me of sleep again. Reality's a mess, but I'm getting good at cleaning it up. In the dream space, I tapped my foot, staring at the void like it owed me answers. 2 new features blinked into existence, achievements, and a skill tree. The first was a letdown, awaken a sleeping history. No buffs, no perks, just a pat on the back from the system. But the second now, that was flashy, even if it was a dead end. The Warby's skill tree shimmered with potential, but my perk point balance was a big fat 0. Still, I knew what I wanted. I reached into the code and grabbed Hersine's Surprise, a passive that morphed into a power called Hersine's Hunt, something primal, something borrowed from the ring's shadow. Not a spell, but a hunger, ready to be unleashed. The power was wild thrilling at first. Hersine's Hunt lasted 4 chaotic days, each breath shadowed by unseen pursuit. It had limits, sure, but the rush was real. Then came the next test danger sense, jacked from another player. I twisted it into a spell, Detect. Sounded epic. Master tier though, great if you've got bottomless mana. I didn't. It guzzled 345 mana per second and turned out mostly useless except it sniffed out undead, constructs, magical signatures. That part, awesome. So I tried flipping the ring's gift into something new. Ping! Notification slaps me. Unable to convert. Just like that. Hope fizzled. Guess even broken gods have rules. Could I not convert the item's ability? Maybe I was low on dream mana. I shrugged and dropped 3 perk points into speechcraft. Felt like a good investment. For once I didn't glitch or fast travel, I actually walked out the door. The second I stepped outside, the world shimmered. Oddly refreshing. Except, I was still in Morthal. Swamps were already a nightmare, but this frozen bog was next level miserable. I woke in the inn sticky, cold, and regretting everything. A quick stat check showed a new passive. Restful sleep, 10 hours of boosted experience gain. At least there was that. I rolled out of bed and headed to the front. Jonna greeted me with a grin. Good afternoon, sleepyhead. I waved with a smile. Good afternoon. Jonna handed me a free room. Generosity like that deserved a little extra charm. We struck a deal. My stay in exchange for removing one very persistent problem, Lurbuck. I had time to kill till nightfall, so I wandered over to the orc polishing a flute. You're Lurbuck? I asked. His eyes lit up like a festival fire. A new face. What a joy in gloomy old Morthal. Speak, friend, speak. I scratched my neck. This guy was painfully cheerful, not like other orcs. I knew his faded dark brotherhood contracts don't leave much room for optimism. I don't mean to offend, I said, but maybe you should try the Bard's College in Solitude because you're awful. His shoulders dropped like a failed drum roll. Not you too. I try my best, all right, but nothing I do ever seems good enough. His voice cracked with a forced chuckle. I raised an eyebrow, watching his hunched form. You're not like other orcs, are you? Exiled? His eyes dropped, murmuring, yeah, I gripped his shoulder. I've heard things. Lurbuck Grow, Dushnik, right? His stare sharpened. I don't know that name. My gaze hardened. I heard about someone performing the Black Sacrament. Name was Berguk Grow Dushnik. Sound familiar? His eyes widened like code caught mid-glitch. Father, he would. He met my eyes, scanning them like a broken quest line looking for logic. Then what should I do? You're the one telling me this? I muttered, narrowing my eyes. Lurbuck gave a slow nod. Of course. I was trained from childhood like every orc from the strongholds. I crossed my arms, weighing the odds. Then listen. Go to Solitude. If you want to become a real bard, not just one with dreams, but with songs worth singing, the Bard's College is the place. If they shut you out, ask about the lost instruments. Some bards lose more than lyrics when they roam Skyrim. Use your strength. Make them notice you. That's how you learn. Lurbuck blinked, stunned. Yes, that could work, but... He faltered, doubt rising like a cold mist. I didn't let the silence stretch. You think the Dark Brotherhood will hunt you across Skyrim? As the war throttles movement and fear swells in Solitude, rumors echo the Brotherhood might want you dead, but in Skyrim, their grip is weak. Keep sharp, stay clever, and maybe you'll outlast them. I flashed him a grin. He returned it with a nervous chuckle. Thanks, Vec Frostwain. His face lit up. Thank you, Vec. Honestly, I think folks here in Morthal aren't too fond of me. He sprang to his feet. Jonna, I'm packing. Wish me luck. Jonna's eyes widened, a gleam of hope breaking across her face. No problem. I'll see you out, Lurbuck. With that, I left the Indinga new notification. Speechcraft 41. Leveled up. Still needed more perk points. Chapter 22. Morthal. Next stop, Morthal. The air felt heavy, but not just from the fog. Phalion lived here, and let's just say, people didn't send him love letters. Still, rumors whispered of his power he could cure vampirism, for one, and maybe more. Something told me he wasn't just hiding from the townsfolk, he was hunting vampires. I knocked. A little girl answered. Hello? I kept it cool, smiled. Phalion around? He's your magic teacher, right? Her eyes widened like I just conjured a dragon. Then Phalion stepped up, face like stone. What do you want? I didn't flinch. 3 seers live here in Morthal. Out of 7 across all of Skyrim, and 3 of them are kids. That's not chance, it's code. He squinted, unsure if I was mad or prophetic. Who are you? He asked. And honestly, I was starting to wonder the same. My name is Vec Frostwain, I said, standing at the edge of mortal trust and Daedric paranoia. Born of Atmora's frost, bloodlined with snow elves, I bend more than just magic. Phalion's eyes narrowed, but he stepped aside. Enter. One wrong twitch, and I'll exile you to the deepest pit of oblivion. He turned to the girl. Agni, outside. Lessons resume later. She nodded, vanishing with silent grace. He faced me again. How did you know she's a seer? I shrugged. Elder Scrolls. His frown deepened. He misread me. Perfect. I leaned in, calm and precise. That truth spell of yours. How does it work? The room tensed, magic waiting like coiled code. It's conjuration, not a truth spell, but I get the confusion. Alteration apprentices tend to blur the lines. Harsh? Maybe. But I wasn't here to spar over semantics. I needed to know if he had it, because trust isn't exactly his strong suit, and I knew my charm wouldn't cut it. He grunted something close to interest, so I pushed on. The real reason I'm here? Morthal's got a vampire plague, and I think you're the one to handle it with my help. Not to make friends, but to stop them from seeing you as the source of every shadow. You deserve to be accepted for who you are, not what they fear. I added a hook. Helping would protect your ward, especially with the Jarl's son being a seer. That stopped him. His eyes narrowed. What do you mean? I smiled. So, he didn't know. Falian slammed his fist on the table, eyes wide with fear and suspicion. You can't threaten me. Are you some kind of Daedra? I tilted my head, a faint smile curling my lips. Number, I'm exactly what I said I am, but maybe I'm being strung along by one, or maybe it's something even higher than them. Who knows? The words weren't threats, just truths tangled in the web of a bigger game. I'm not threatening you, Falian. I'm fulfilling my role, that's all. That smile had hit him like a glitch in the Matrix, cracking his certainty. But that conversation proved everything I needed. The Daedric princes will know now. I'm a player. And being a player, it's different. It's special. The Dragonborn questline is moving, ticking in the background like a countdown. But the scariest part? These NPCs, they're not just lines of code, they remember. They adapt. Maybe I'm stuck in some full-dive VR psychosis. Or maybe I've already become part of the simulation. I only need you to kill some vampires once I prove they're here in Morthal. You already know that. Falian's fist hit the table like thunder. You can't threaten me. Are you some kind of Daedra? I tilted my head. Calm. No. I'm exactly what I said. Maybe being strung along by a Daedra. Maybe something higher. Who knows? But this isn't a threat, Falian. It's a role. I'm just playing it. My grin twisted the air. Fear crept into his eyes. That moment confirmed everything. The Daedric princes would recognize me as a player. My presence wasn't ordinary. The main quest, the one with the Dragonborn, was moving again. And more than anything, the NPCs weren't just NPCs. Maybe I was falling into full VR psychosis. Or maybe something was waking up. Everything felt too real, like my memories began and ended in Nirn, as if the beta wasn't